sound check. I don't think it's ever the live stream.
Is it?
It's always, yeah. The only complaints I've ever heard is on the podcast side.
Oh, okay.
But that was. Beyond You, showing 2, so should be auditory to those in the live chat now. Just setting up one last thing that I forgot.
Guess I should turn my phone volume down.
That might help. Okay, waiting for the old tablet to go up here. Oh, password. Okay, so yeah, we're here about 24 hours early from what we would normally be doing for a show. We apologize, there wasn't much of a warning on that. This is mostly just for live stream stuff. We haven't started the proper show yet, but yeah, we're having a little bit of a shift in schedule for this week, and we will cover that as soon as we start the show, just so we don't have to explain it twice. Wouldn't want things to be repeating too much. Okay, get the intro queued up here, and then in just 1 second we will get started on the show. Okay, of course, we're here for a roundtable. If you follow our patterns, you were probably anticipating that, as last time was a book club. All right, let's go ahead and mute ourselves real quick and listen to some intro stuff and get started on the show. Roundtable number 62.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are quartet, one from many. The palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's Magnum Opus, The Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for roundtable number 62. I got to change the slide real quick.
There we go.
The control panel I normally have for my slide thing is malfunctioning. Again, North Central Positronics, man.
Seriously, it's like something new every week. It's like, oh, this time it's going to be this time it's going to be this. And it's just a big middle finger to us from North Central Positronics. They just know that we're gunslingers and we hate it.
Yeah, indeed. They're it's either that or Skynet. I mean, or are they the same thing? That's the real question there.
Same thing, different realms, kind of thing. Different levels of the tower.
Yeah, just calling it different things, like some Nozzla.
Takoro spirit. Takoro? Takura spirit. That's right.
Yeah.
Takura.
Yeah. So we're here for number 62 roundtable. It's been a little bit of a minute since we had a normal roundtable because we had the Castle Rock discussion, so that was kind of different. Haven't really heard a whole lot of feedback on it, but if anyone out there wants to give us any kind of feedback, you definitely can, because that was something certainly far different than anything we've done prior. So let us know what you guys thought, even if it's just on social media or whatever, email, that kind of thing. But first of all, we want to warn you guys about spoilers. This is the normal intro. If you're new to the show, you may not know this stuff, but long timers, you could probably recite it by now. But first of all, we want to warn you about spoilers. With roundtables, we have the freedom to spoil anything from the 7 primary books, as well as Went Through the Keyhole or any of the side things like short stories, comic books, movie, whatever it might be. Like we pretty much have the full latitude here. So if you're not completely read up, or at least if you haven't read the main story, you may want to cry off this podcast and stick to our book club episodes. In our book club episodes, we stay pretty much where we're at and before, nothing after. So so long as you listen to episodes book club wise that are not ahead of you, you won't ever get spoiled. So stick with those if you're not done yet. We would hate to spoil any big moment for you. That would be tragic. So that's a warning on that. And also the ways to find us. If you guys want to find us, there's a number of ways. We're on iTunes. You can stream us on Stitcher, any podcast service out there. Pretty much you could find us. Also, if you could be so kind as to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, we'd appreciate that. And I have noticed the numbers have gone up over the last little while in terms of like an amount of reviews. Nice. So definitely thank you, Size, out there, for everyone that has thrown those up there, because that does help grow the show as people are able to find it more and stuff. Especially now we're in a spot where Dark Tower certainly isn't the, I don't know what you'd call it, like a trending topic. It doesn't have the same kind of following now that it did when, like in the lead up to the movie and stuff. There was a lot of things like buzz surrounding it and stuff. And I was thinking about it because like I'm a huge fan of the Halloween series, and like, dude, like this last couple weeks and even the last month or so has been just a dream for me, because like all kinds of people on Twitter going through watching, like, and not just like fans, but also just like journalists, like bloggers and stuff are like going through like, like one guy was going through and live tweeting because he had never seen the middle chunk movies, like 4, 5, 6, and he was tweeting on those. And of course, like, if you know anything about those, they're not generally well regarded. So it was really funny, but like it's just been like a fun time for Halloween fan. And we definitely had that with Dark Tower going into the movie as well. So it's a little bit slower now. So anything that helps people find us is definitely a good thing. Yeah. If you guys want to, also, or I guess not if you want to, if you want to see what we're talking about, we have our show notes will be posted at darktowerpalaver.com. If I share any like articles and stuff, a lot of times I'll kind of just crib from them here and there. Some articles, depending on what the content is, I may take from more heavily. Other ones I just take small blurbs from. If you want to read the whole articles, go ahead and check those out at darktowerpalaver.com. You'll find like the links to those articles. Also, any pictures and stuff like that we share that Peter's seeing. If you're watching YouTube, you guys will be able to see like what Peter's seeing on the screen for the YouTube side. But if you're just listening in podcast land, darktowerpalaver.com is your way to kind of get to know what we're talking about visually.
To give you an example of what Ted's talking about, for those of you who have never tuned in or if we've never explained it before, is like a lot of times these articles are like, for example, a perfect one that pops up is one with Matthew McConaughey during the filming of the movie and everything. They were asking him about different projects, but then he gave like one section about Dark Tower. So Ted takes that section and puts it into the show and everything like that. The rest of the article is not necessarily pertaining to Dark Tower or Stephen King or universe or anything like that. So that's why he's saying that if you want to read the full article, go to the show notes.
Yeah, indeed. Looks like we have Jordy in the chat from the Netherlands, just here before he goes to bed. Time things like that always trip me out a little bit. But yeah, it's certainly, we're just in the mid-afternoon here in Utah. But yeah, Jordy, Netherlands, that's a place I'm hoping to go at some point. I can't remember if I've engaged with you on social media because it seems familiar. Yeah, I think I did actually. And I did tell you that at some point I'd love to go out there. My grandpa immigrated here as a small child from the Netherlands. So it's definitely one of the trips I want to make some point in my life to just kind of go back there and see that the country in general. So definitely thanks for joining us, even for the short time that you can. And that also does bring us to also in terms of live streams. We have a little bit more flexibility now to where at some points, if we have enough people letting us know from like Europe, say, that want, us to do, maybe move the time to have a live stream that might be friendlier to your guys' time, let us know. Hit us up on social media and stuff, and just like let us know in terms of like, I don't know, that there is an interest there. If there is, then we could like shift a show a number of hours so it'll be a little bit more conducive to you guys listening and engaging, because we'd definitely love to have you guys on board the live streams. They're always fun to have people interacting with. So yeah, indeed. So did you get your intro part yet, or did I cut you off?
We haven't got there yet.
Okay. Sorry,
No, you're good. We got sidetracked with the show notes, and then we got sidetracked with Jordy and everything.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you explain the show notes.
If you want to reach out to us, because this is an extended quartet, and you are all part of it with us, you can do that through several different ways. The best way is to email us. That's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. You can also follow us on the Twitter. It's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And if you listen to the last book club, I'm sure you guys are glad to hear that I'm able to get through these without dying this time. So
oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, last time of the book club when we were wrapping up shop and going through these the second time, I took a swallow of water the wrong way, and it almost killed me. Still a little suspicious, wondering, because Tad did give me that bottle of water. So
yes, that's true. Was it sealed?
No, the seal was broken. That's what's weird. Also, check out our shows. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Like everyone who's tuning in right now live with us, like Tad said, is going to be able to see the slides and pictures and everything like that we have. And
also hearing it a tiny bit early, too.
That's true.
A lot of times it's about, if we're recording Friday, Saturday, a lot of times it's by Tuesday-ish that we have it posted in podcast land. Just in terms of like getting the show prepped and everything and posted takes a little bit of time. So you're also able to get a little bit ahead of the curve and hear the show live. You'll be hearing it a number of days before everyone else does. So
plus, there's always just a little bit extra at the beginning and end for those people who tune in live, just so you know.
Yeah, there's been some times we've even had some more extended discussions. Like, was it or there's one of the things we started discussing something after
we waited till we were off the air, and that it wasn't part that wasn't going to go into the podcast, that we were like, okay, we're off the air, we're going to talk about this. If you want to bail out and not have the movie spoiled,
I think it was because it was early too. It was only a week or so after it came out.
And so it was like okay, if you're still here, you're going to hear it, and then we launched into it.
Yeah, and that's so yeah. Every once in a while, we'll have a little bit going on and talk to people in the chat and stuff outside of the normal show. But yeah, that's definitely one way to engage with us. Where you do apologize. This time we are about 24 hours early from what we would normally be doing.
That's my fault.
It's about the normal time that we would be that is going to be our new norm. But it is a day early. So yeah, that's just like family.
Yep, my fault. Daughter's birthday party's tomorrow. Didn't look at which weekend it was and everything like that. Just planned it with my wife and skipping along and everything like that. And then it was like Wednesday or Thursday this week. I was like, crap. So I let Tad know, and luckily he was available that we could do it today about the same time.
Yeah. So it's definitely worked out. But yeah, that's why we're a little bit off on our normal schedule. And we do apologize. There hasn't been any kind of notification on. It was kind of late it was not that far.
Yeah.
It was only a day or so ago that we even figured out that we were recording now instead of tomorrow. And like, it's just, I'll apologize on my end. I've just been so busy. It's been tough to like throw something out there and be like, hey, we're recording this time. And then things were in motion too. We have like a work thing from the job that Peter was at and I'm still at that we're going to after we record here.
Yep.
So like we had to wait for that to solidify before we knew when exactly we were going to record. So this one was kind of a little bit more helter-skelter than normal, but be looking for us about this time, which is about 3 p.m. Utah time, Mountain Time, which is 5 p.m. Eastern. And I guess you can calibrate depending on where you're at on what that is. Generally Saturday afternoons, but today is obviously Friday. So that was just some basic stuff of why we're here early.
Mm-hmm. And again, Tad said this earlier. Overseas people, anyone international that wants us to do a different time for a show, even if you want to do like a theme show for you guys or anything like that, hit us up. Send us that email through, darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. Hit us up on social media. Tad's mostly the one that handles the Twitter side of things. I see a lot more on the Facebook, but Tad does have a presence on Facebook, so
yeah,
hit us up because
if you're going to sit here and jab at Peter about things, and you want to join in my side of things, and maybe call out things like Eddie's death, or
why
just things like that. You got to do it on Facebook.
We're like 10 minutes in and we're already doing a hashtag Tad is terrible. Like, come on.
Oh, now I'm going to say this just kind of came to mind. But there's part of me that it gives me an ulcer thinking about it. But if there was any interest in a show that was kind of just a free-form show with, like, if we wanted to plan something to where maybe we get a good group in the chat and we just kind of flowed the show based on what was in the chat, like, that'd be an interesting thing. I mean, the side of me, I'm like very meticulous about like wanting things like planned, because who knows if things didn't go right, it'd be terrible. But I mean, you and I can certainly
we have no problem tangent in
our
this
way.
bitch.
But like that would be an interesting show idea, is like maybe pick a certain time and just be like, hey, this is going to be the free for all round table, like everyone join in, and maybe even work out like when would be the best for a lot of people to show up, and then just maybe have a big chat and just kind of like we did with our live shows when we were on when we did Mixler back in the day. Some of our first live shows, we had a little bit more fan engagement. Like if we want to do something like that, planning it now, we're doing live pretty much constant now, unless there's issues with like stream stuff, but
which happens.
Yeah, which does happen. But yeah, if that was something that would be interest anyone, let us know on that. That'd be kind of interesting.
Wouldn't it be kind of fun to do like a little trivia one where they have to answer it in the chat, and the first one to type it in answers the question and wins?
Yeah, and actually, yeah,
that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, and I think I might even have an idea for a prize on that.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's that actually is a good. I mean, maybe that's not the whole thing, but that could be part of what we're doing. Because I think it kind of just like a more open palaver / discussion would be kind of interesting. Maybe just like, and even if it was a thing where you couldn't make it, if you're more just in the podcast land, maybe even shot us some ideas for topics that we could even just throw out there.
Yeah.
Some like chum the waters with some topics. I don't know. Just it'd be an interesting thing, because sometimes the chats are definitely important and they're part of the show, but I don't know that they've ever necessarily driven the show.
It would be interesting.
Every once in a while they'll take us off the path a little bit in terms of like
you and your tangents, you fans,
which I love. But like I remember like there was the one that we were talking about after the show ended. We talked a lot about it, but even that show we ended up talking about it quite a bit, because everyone was mostly just getting out of the theater over the last week or so. So we ended up talking about it a little bit more in the show.
Bad Chris.
What does he say there? Go ahead and read it.
He says, "Heil Flag fans."
Having you read that's a perfect thing, because now I have you saying that on the auditories.
Yeah, but I don't say it all chipper and happy and everything like that. I say it with as much disdain as I can muster. So go ahead and use that. That's not me making an ass of myself by singing a stupid little jingle. So.
Thanks for that, by the way.
I do what I can.
It still makes me laugh. All right. So, yeah, that's some of the intro stuff. So let's go ahead and jump over. We don't have a whole lot of news, but we do have some emails that will probably give us some good discussion topics. But in the emails, they're a little bit more in the realm of King-ish, more than like Dark Tower. But I think that works out for what we're doing.
We've opened that door, right?
Yeah,
I think we've established that, and it's been put out there. We haven't heard a ton of no's and nays or anything like that. So I think that
horses don't listen.
Yeah. Well, it's the ayes and the nays. Come on, Ted, you're a history fan. Shut up. So I think that the broader Stephen King universe is definitely starting to open up to us a little bit.
Yeah, indeed. And especially because, all things are pretty much quiet on the Western Front when it comes to the old Dark Tower TV series. I will say on that front a tiny bit, Wheel of Time has completely been greenlit now, which is one of the ones that when kind of they dropped that article about, that kind of just casually mentioned that Dark Tower was in development at Amazon. Wheel of Time is obviously one of the biggest and most popular high fantasy things probably ever. It's right up there in terms of like one of the big ones. I'm not even into into high fantasy, but I know like that every time I talk to anyone about it, Wheel of Time's always one of the first ones that comes up. So I know that much about it. And that one now having the green light going forward of that whole mess of things that Amazon got their hands on all at one time, it looks like Wheel of Time's going to be the first one out of the gate, because now they're further into the thing of like, you know, getting that green light. They're in full production now, which is where we're sitting waiting to hear about a green light for Dark Tower. They're still kind of sitting on, you know, the property. I think Glenn Mazzara is probably doing his work on it, but ultimately I don't think that he has the light to be like, start making episodes.
There was quite a few titles there in that pack.
There was like 6 or 7.
The 3 big ones that I remember, the Wheel of Time one, which at our old job there was a lot of people that were talking about it, and trying to get us to read it. Because
and even throughout my life, it feels like every time I talk to someone that's into high fantasy, that's always one of the first ones off their lips is Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
So
the other ones were Dark Tower and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, okay. I guess the Lord of the Rings was, but that one I feel like has been not that it's old news, but that one's kind of been on
there for a while.
Yeah, that one's because that was kind of their first volley of like trying to, because basically the story is that the was it Bezos? I'm not the owner of Amazon.
Well, just call him the billionaire. Is what you call him.
Yeah,
good God,
the richest man on the planet. He basically has given them the marching orders at Amazon Studios to basically find the answer to Game of Thrones for the Amazon streaming service. And the Lord of the Rings was certainly the first thing that they've done. But then after that was this batch of things that all got dropped in that article where they were like, hey, here's all the other stuff that Amazon's bought and has potentially in development. So just kind of an interesting thing to watch is that Wheel of Time is now moved out of that ambiguous phase. And they are now in the same realm as that Lord of the Rings, that it's now in development.
Yep.
And they'll probably be casting and stuff. So I don't know what that means for Dark Tower necessarily, but it at least means that some movement forward, because like the other thing with Amazon is they did get somewhat shot in the gut, because they end up firing the head of the studio for him just basically being a total piece of shit. And I think that certainly slowed down what they had going, because he was a fairly prolific person in Hollywood in terms of like getting things, like, you know, he was put there for a reason to head Amazon Studios, and it's pretty much right that he got fired. The dude had some pretty bad things in his past that he had done. So I think, though, losing him probably slowed everything at Amazon Studios down. Mm-hmm. So there's part of me that's not super worried about Dark Tower right now, because even with like Lord of the Rings, we haven't heard anything about casting. And that's like the furthest one out in terms of like, it's probably gonna be the first one that we see, right? There hasn't been any casting on that one. Wheel of Time obviously hasn't been cast, so like it's not like they're like filming episodes of these other ones. Dark Tower is still in the muck and mire.
No, what makes me reassured is that all of these ones were lumped together as kind of a category where they came out, and I can't remember who it was, whether it was the VP of like development for original content or whatever her name was. Yeah, she comes out and says, "Look, we want original content. You know, we have all of these shows," and she lists those ones, and those are the 3 that I remember: is the Wheel of Time.
Yeah, and there's a couple others in there too.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. You said there was like 6 or 7. I can't remember any of the other ones. But when she says that we want to use these as our tent poles, these are going to be our big projects and everything like that, and then to see that 2 out of those have already been greenlit and are moving forward with Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time, makes me really confident that if they're mentioned on that list and they're moving forward, then Dark Tower is going to be made. Yeah, so that makes me feel good to see that Wheel of Time's moving forward, because Lord of the Rings, kind of like you said, that was kind of like pre this beat Game of Thrones kind of thing. Yeah, that was kind of before that, but then it kind of got lumped into it when he made that statement that he wants someone to beat Game of Thrones with something that's available on Amazon. Yeah, and now he has all these different properties, and Dark Tower is one of them. Yeah, and with all these properties, it makes me wonder, like, is Amazon going to gear their streaming service more towards the fantasy realm? Because if they got all this stuff, let's just say all of those things that were mentioned in that article, all 6 or 7 of them end up on Amazon streaming as shows. Mm-hmm. Like, that's going to give Amazon a very specific flavor. And I mean, it would also even fit with like Man in the High Castle might fit into that realm as well. Like, it's like the alternate history fantasy. I mean, you can call that a fantasy as much as anything else. So it's like, whereas like, I mean, Netflix is just almost everything, right? I mean, they're generally TV based. They don't do a whole lot for movies. The big thing with Amazon, with Netflix that I've noticed is a lot of original content, but a ton of documentaries.
Yeah, they have a lot of documentaries,
Yeah.
but like in terms of their original content, like it isn't necessarily branded in a genre.
No,
like,
they're
do
all
everything.
over the place. I
Yeah,
mean, they have kids shows. I mean, they brought back, what was it, Voltron or Thundercats or one of those,
yeah.
and redid that one. But they're all over the place.
So it makes me wonder: is Amazon going to gear itself to maybe pitch itself as like that's their way of making themselves distinct away from Netflix?
Oh, okay.
And everything, is doing the fantasy, which is actually not a bad tactic, because think about HBO. What's the two biggest things on HBO right now?
Game of Thrones and
Westworld.
Yeah.
Both of those would be fantasy
slash sci-fi.
Yeah,
fantasy.
but in the fantasy realm enough to where like maybe that's not a bad tactic to go, because it looks like people are certainly eating it up. So
that's true.
It's true. All of that obviously ties into what we're talking about here, because ultimately Dark Tower would be part of that. And I mean, I couldn't imagine they wouldn't see the value in Dark Tower. It's like even with the with the pretty negative response by and large to the movie,
yeah,
I don't think that they can ignore what potential the Dark Tower has to be part of that, if they're going to end up being like kind of your stop for fantasy original content and a streaming service. So yeah, that's just something I saw over the last little bit that I don't know, at least wanted to mention. It's outside of what I have up on the screen, but I did want to mention it. So now for this on the screen here, this article was titled "Horror Authors: The Dark Feeling That Found Me Through Stephen King." This is by Gavin Christick from Fansided on October 4th, 2018, that when he wrote this. And this is just an interesting like article, and like in terms of just like, because like I don't know, I'll start into it, but you'll kind of see why I wanted to throw this out here. But he says the lure of the dark is what draws people to horror, that murky feeling that takes hold when you're reading a book or watching something related to the macabre. This is how I fell in love with the genre, more specifically through the works of Stephen King. Now, even just with that, so basically what we're going to go through here with this is Gavin's experiences kind of coming to horror through Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, it's backwards, because like me, I came to horror first and Stephen King later, just mostly because of like being as young as I was when I got into horror.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the realm enough to start reading Stephen King, but not necessarily because of the content, but because like when you're like 5, like you're not really reading like novels traditionally. Like,
yeah, right.
It's just, you're not like, eventually like you get to a little bit of an older age and you start to get into like junior novels that are made to be a little bit more consumable, but like,
what are they called, preteen teen novels?
Yeah, like young adult.
Yeah, young adult. That's what I was thinking
young
of.
adult type stuff. But like, you know, in general, it's tough for me to this. But what about you? How would you say coming to horror is? I mean,
no. I mean, you know my horror history.
No, I know, but how would you define it?
My horror history started with Stephen King. I mean, it kind of started at about the same time.
I mean, it's all me.
It's all you. Yeah. Basically, guys, before I met Tad, the only horror movie, like actual classified, and I still the debate rages whether or not it is classified as a horror movie, because I count it as a horror movie, was Ghost in the Darkness.
Yeah.
The lion movie, the man-eating lion with Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas in Africa. Terrified me. I mean, I had seen Tremors, but that's not a horror movie.
I mean, it's a horrifying concept, but it's not executed in a horror style.
No, it's not. It was definitely more comedy, action, suspense kind of thing.
Yeah.
So horror, when you look at the different genres of horror, there's the possession, there's the slasher, there's the monster,
psychological
thrillers. Most of those I got I'll say it, all of those I got introduced to after I met you.
Yeah.
About the same time he was introducing me to Stephen King with Salem's Lot.
So it's almost a parallel.
It really was a parallel for me, where I started with one, and it was like I took to the films so well that you're like, hey, check out this book.
Yeah, I think it's especially because once I found out you're a reader, because I mean, I think I mentioned it before on the show, there's just a lot of people that don't read for pleasure, so it's just one of those that, like, when you find one, it's like, oh, okay, like, what would now, like, generally be, what do you read? But in this case, I was exposing you to so many new avenues. It's like, Stephen King would fit right into all this.
Oh, so. Yeah, and it did. That was the thing, is like, I mean, I read Salem's Lot through, and then I can't remember the second novel that you had me read, but it wasn't any of the big Stand, It, or anything like that. I read something else, and then you kind of let me go. Like here's the Stephen King universe. Go.
Yeah, I helped curate like your entrance into it, but then after that, it's just like go wild.
That's where I Firestarter, Carrie. I think I read like Desperation and was like, I think that's where I came back to you with like, Sensei, I've lost my way. Like what do I do now? I've read these and these are not. The Desperation was not what I expected, and you're like, my young pupil, Grasshopper, read The Stand. So that's where The Stand
sends you to the deep end.
The Stand, and then you started me with Dark Tower.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I just find this interesting. Then he goes on here and says, my first experience with that dark feeling was in middle school with horror authors, mainly Stephen King. Something that a lot of people can relate to. Slumping in an uncomfortable school chair with your eyes glued to a book that you have hidden inside your desk. And I don't know that I ever had to like hide my books. I feel like most of the times like that, like reading was like open to you. Like, and I guess maybe that's the problem. Maybe he's more explaining like reading when you're not supposed to be reading.
I think he was reading during class is definitely not something that's allowed.
But I mean, even in the classes that you do though, I mean, there's some people that, like the teachers were like, wouldn't let them read certain things. But like me, like when it was English is generally when you do your free reading, right? And I've never had an English teacher that was like super like stuffity about like what I read necessarily, like they might like give you a look or like be somewhat condescending about the fact that, oh, you're just reading a Stephen King book, but they were never like, no, you can't read that. You got to read Moby Dick or something. I never experienced that. I know some people have, but I've never experienced that personally.
I've never read Stephen King in school. So that's the thing is like, I kept those at home. I definitely got that from my mother.
Yeah.
So my very religious mother, I definitely heard it from her. I mean, 16, 17 years old, I had a car. I was able to drive out to Barnes & Noble. I'd come home with 2 or 3 Stephen King novels.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, why don't you read the this religious book or this religious book or just read your Bible? And I'm just like, but this has a rabid dog in it.
Yeah.
And this one's a psychic girl over here killing people covered in pig's blood. Like, you got that in those books? No. Okay, then.
Yeah, indeed. And the next up, it says, it was there in my classroom in the 7th grade where I read my first Stephen King novel, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon.
I still need to read that one.
That's an interesting one to start with, for sure.
Have you read that one?
No, I haven't actually. Okay. No. He says that book was my introduction to the world of King's imagination, a psychological nightmare that pulled me into the universe of horror. The book showed me that there was more than to the genre than just the slasher side. It honestly bored me while I was reading it. However, I found myself still thinking about it for quite some time, so it had a lingering effect. And he says there was a unique aspect to that tale, as is with any good horror novel or film, that captivated me. The more I thought about the story, the more I wanted to read other Stephen King works. I vividly remember the events of It, like Bill riding his bike through the streets of Derry shouting "Hi-ho Silver" away, Eddie not wanting to give a homeless man a quarter, and he says in parentheses, I don't blame him for being afraid of that homeless leper, and spraying the creature in the face with the inhaler. And then he goes on and says, It, unlike The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, amazed me from the start. The dark feeling I kept describing was thick and dense while I was reading. It completely changed me as a person and showed me how amazing horror can be. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of an interesting, to me it's just fascinating, the birth into it. And I'd be interested to hear from any listeners if you came to horror through Stephen King, or if Stephen King opened you up to the genre. I'd be interested to hear, I guess, your story on it and how it tended to happen. Or if you were like me and were a horror fan that came to Stephen King as a secondary thing, like, did it change your interpretation of horror? Did it change how you view things or whatever, Did
it influence your taste in horror movies is a good one too, because if you were already introduced to horror movies, kind of like yourself, did it change your taste in horror movies after you started reading Stephen King?
I mean, I'm just so weird because watching them so young, by the time I started reading King at, whatever it was, 14, 15, somewhere in there, probably somewhere in the 12 to 15 range, probably. Mm-hmm. By that point, I was so well versed in it. I mean, growing up, we would just go to Hollywood Video and just rent everything in the horror section. Mm-hmm. And so it was just one of those things that I'm not sure. I will say, I think it has defined me, not necessarily more on how I interpret horror, but how I view storytelling would be what I would say is I feel I've learned a lot about storytelling through Stephen King,
Yeah.
which might actually influence my like digestion of all movies more so than just horror, if
Right.
that makes any sense. Like it's like the I mean, we all know like the what makes King King, right? There's like these things that he does that no other author does, right? Well, I mean, there's certainly people now that are trying to replicate King or that are inspired by him and now write similar style to him, or at least in certain ways. But it's like the things that King did was like it captivated me in a way to where to suddenly start interpreting like how you tell a story or whatever. Like I guess I got more of that from it, so it's more influenced me in the larger sense than just horror. But
well, I think that you came close to what I was thinking you were going to say. So I want to see if you think this may be true. When it comes to horror films, you are not a fan of all. It's true.
Yeah.
Because I think the big thing is that when you look at horror films, you want to see a good story, you want to see a good plot and everything like that.
Yeah.
You don't want 2 hours of jump scares and boobs and gratuitous violence.
Like
as much as you love gratuitous violence, as much as the next guy, you want a purpose though behind it.
Yeah.
There needs to be a purpose behind it, which is why you liked the first Paranormal Activity. You liked the first Final Destination. You didn't love them. You liked them. We talked about this last night after watching Halloween. But when it got to the sequels and it got more Hollywood, Saw is a perfect example. Yeah. The first Saw was brilliant in your eye, right?
It's one of the most brilliant horror movies of our generation, for sure.
Perfect example. What happened to the sequels? Tell me what went wrong with the sequels.
Oh, it's not only, and then it breaks my heart because then people judge the first movie based on the entire series, and all the just the garbage that the sequels became affects people where they're like, all the Saw movies are shit. I'm like, wait, hold on a second.
Well, back up.
Yeah, what about the first movie?
Back up.
Like,
exactly. I think that's where I'm thinking that you were influenced by King, is that it has to at least have a decent horror story, because that's why you look at horror films like right here on your desk. You have Hereditary, which is not your normal typical horror movie as far as I've read about. I haven't watched it yet, so I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, yeah, and it's true. And I guess what it comes down to is we actually talked about this. I'm trying to remember what context it was, but we were talking about with King, I think it was about the adaptations and grading adaptations. We had an article that was breaking that down, and they talked about how if you view King as just horror, you've missed the point entirely. He's not about the horror. The horror happens late. Usually you start with building these characters, making real fleshed out characters, and then you apply some sort of pressure to them, which is generally where the horror is. You know, some sort of supernatural element or some sort of like whatever.
Cujo.
Or Cujo.
Prime example there is that you built the relationship between the husband, the wife, and the kid, and you not only them, but then the owners of the dogs and dog and everything like that, and then you put them into a situation like that. Yeah, that's exactly what you're talking.
Whereas
about.
if it was just if Cujo was written as a horror movie, it would not have had all of that. Like, I mean, like, think about how many horror movies, especially in the slasher realm, how many, like, do you watch where, like, the characters are nothing? They're two-dimensional things that are there. They're pieces of meat to be butchered. That's it.
Exactly.
You know, there's no character. I mean,
exactly.
There's a reason that Halloween is my all-time favorite when it comes to slash, and I love slashers. I really do. Psycho also sits in there as one of my all-time favorites. But it's like, look at those versus your Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, which I love those too, but I view those differently because like those, like, you're not getting a cast of characters that you're going to care about. You're getting like the victims, and you're just going to put them through very specific steps that are generally always the same, to have like one survive at the end, usually gets killed in the sequel, and like it's just the same steps all the time. You never see a character like the reason this new Halloween, in my opinion, is so great is because you're dealing with a character, and her, and you get this from the trailers. I knew this was going to be a strong point before I even saw the movie, because they played the fact you're getting a character that's been living with this trauma for 40 years. How has it affected her? Like, that to me is like why I'm like, okay, yeah, I can't wait for this movie. I'm really excited for it, because it's not just Michael and with like 12 victims that have just been two-dimensionally carved out of wood and just let him splatter these people. Like, no, there's like character things going on, and I don't know.
There's characters
that comes from that probably comes from King in my mind.
And that's what I'm thinking is like the more I look at your like the way you look at horror and the movies that you've turned me on to. I mean, I'm looking at your movie collection over here, just looking at some of the horror movies that I see here. you do still have the atypical slasher fun flicks that are fun to watch.
Stuff, yeah.
You got the entire collection of Friday the 13th. I see the Chucky box set up there. But then I also look over here and I see the Omen box set. And I see The Witch. And I see Hereditary. And I see The Conjuring.
Yeah.
And I see things that are more character driven. I mean, I haven't seen Hereditary. I've seen The Omen. And I can tell you right now, The Omen, especially the original, is very character driven. Like you have this mother, this father, you have their son, and they're dealing with that. The Exorcist is a great one.
Yeah.
Where it's not just the creep factor of the exorcism and everything like that. I mean, they built up Reagan, the girl that gets possessed, for those of you who have not seen the movie since 1973 when it came out. 73?
Yeah. It's actually impressive. You got, like, not that you wouldn't know, but just I was waiting for you to ask me the date. But yeah, 73.
I remember that it's 73 because I got the 70s kind of locked down in my brain. Is that 73 was The Exorcist, 77 was Episode 4, and 78 was Halloween. And so The Exorcist built the mom and daughter relationship. I mean, they
but also even the priest too, with his mom,
and the priest
like,
with his mom.
And
they humanized him. Yeah.
But to me that always comes down to King.
That's missing from modern horror films.
Yeah.
Go look at the latest Saw film that you had seen. How much time do they spend on the main character? The main character, the one that survives. How long do they spend building that character?
Yeah, they don't.
5 minutes.
If
that.
It's all about the goo and the
jump scares.
Yeah,
right. It's out to jump scare.
And I'm not bashing gore. By any means.
Exactly what I said when I started this conversation is that you like the gore, but you like there to be a point behind it.
Yeah, so it's like that article that it was some episodes back where it's like, if you're like with it was a very different horror movie.
Yeah,
because they were true to Stephen King's source material.
Right.
How would you make it if it was just a movie without a book there? It would not have been I don't want to call it a horror comedy because that's always a bad thing, but there was a lot of
it was a coming of age horror movie.
But dude, you laugh almost as much as you're scared in that movie, which is good. But it's but with that though, now those characters are built in a way that when the sequel comes out, they're on a foundation where now we know all these characters and they're going to be different actors portraying them, but we're going to understand who they all are. And that's
we're going to understand where they came from, and we're going to see who they are hopefully in the first part of the film, where we're going to get to know them a little bit
as
more.
Adults. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's one of the really great things about it. It's still the reason why I'm trying to convince my wife to watch that movie, but she just will not budge. I'm hoping that her seeing Halloween last night kind of made.
Did she watch the original Halloween?
Yeah, she watched the original Halloween. We watched it about a week and a half ago.
What about the clown costume there? She's not a clown. She's not a fan of clowns.
Well, yeah, but it's not a big part of the film.
No, but in that portion. When I was watching it last time, I was like, wait, I think Peter said he's going to watch this with his wife. I'm like, I wonder how this whole clown thing.
It didn't affect her as much because it's not. It's a kid in a clown costume. It's not a clown.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different.
Okay.
If we took the movie Clown that you have sitting up there that we still haven't watched, by the way.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
That's a terrifying concept for a film, by the way, is that this guy has a clown cancel for his son's birthday party, so he goes up and finds this old clown costume in the attic, and then he can't take it off, and he starts becoming like a murderous clown. Good God. No.
I love the spirit of it. So overall, we can finish this up, but I think that overall, how King has influenced how you approach horror is an interesting concept to me, and I would be curious what people's thoughts are on that, and maybe some of your guys' stories about how is King, did King bring you into horror, did horror bring you to King, and what that relationship is. But then Gavin goes on and says, after finishing the book, I read through all the classics, The Shining, Dolores Claiborne, The Stand, The Dark Tower, plus many others, and when I finished those, I always had this raw, untamed feeling that just led me to wanting more.
Yeah.
He says, branching away from King, I expanded on the foundation that was built when I finished it. I started to consume more from bigger name horror authors, movies, and video games, from Poe to Evil Dead to the Twisted Mind of Clive Barker and Resident Evil. Quite honestly, my list could go on. That dark feeling was what drew me into this genre. I opened my eyes to this brand new. It opened my eyes to this brand new world. I will always be grateful to Stephen King and that short book about a lost girl in the woods because it directed me towards my future self. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of a cool, just because it's almost just like a personal thing that he's writing. But I feel like it sparks a larger conversation in my mind where it's like, you know, what is this relationship that people have and with people within our quartet, you know, and it's just in general, I find it interesting. Like how does that work? And is there people, I bet you there's people out there that read King, but don't like horror still.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah. Let's see, is there something in the chat?
Yeah, Chris said when I saw the poster for that clown movie for the first time, I was excited because I thought it was a movie poster for an It remake. Then the disappointment.
Yeah, it's true because that was a number of years, 5-6 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, because we just barely found out about it a couple years ago, and we're like, we're gonna watch this movie with everyone because we got quite a few people that we know that are terrified of clowns. So,
and nothing's better with someone that's terrified of clowns than making them watch a clown movie.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely great. That's why you take those kind of people to the theater with you, like last night. So.
Yeah, or you know what you do is you find one that you know has a clown in it, and you trick them. Something like Poltergeist.
Yes.
There's no clowns. It's about ghosts.
Yeah. I have a story about that. So I used to do a horror fest because I was not as well versed in horror as Tad was. So what I would do is I'd watch one horror movie every day in October. And one year I had Tad set the list for me.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
What was that? It wasn't last year.
Years ago.
It was a couple years ago. And on the list, Tad put some films that I had seen before. And I had seen Poltergeist. And my wife sat down and she goes, "This is the one where the little girl says they're here, right?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "I've always kind of wondered about this." My wife's not big into horror. She never has been. She's starting to express a bigger interest in it, which is, of course, exciting for me.
Yeah.
She sat down with me, and I completely forgot about the fucking clown, dude.
Yeah.
I totally forgot.
Because you see it once very early in the movie, and then you don't see it again until the end when the scare happens.
Yeah.
So
I was like, when it started happening, she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "You may not want to watch." She's like, "Why?" And then, dude, the clown popped up. Straight up, she was so pissed at me for forgetting.
So
of course she doesn't believe me that I forgot. So
I also recently, over the last number of months, have found a few places online. One place sells a replica of that clown.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, and most importantly for me is there's a place that now makes a 100% replica, full size of the good guy doll from the first Child's Play movie.
Oh,
so not the stupid broken up face bullshit, but just the innocent good guy doll from Chucky. Oh
man!
And I will have one. It will be mine.
Oh good Lord!
It will be mine. That's tangential, but yes, that's that's something I've been coveting and wanting to exist for like the longest time. Is just a full, because like the only time I think in the last like 20 years they've made any kind of like life-size Chucky doll was the stupid broken up face one from the later movies.
Yeah, where he's like all hacked to pieces and everything.
And his face is all broken up, and it's like I don't want that. I just want like because he always has like the evil face to him. No, I want one that just looks like the innocent doll, the one the kid buys in the first movie. Mm-hmm. I want that doll. Just put it in the room. If I have a guest bedroom, it's a perfect place to have the good guy doll in the guest bedroom.
You're a terrible person. You really are a terrible person.
Or the Poltergeist doll with its long gangly arms and legs.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, this one we're actually gonna shout out to Daryl from Minneapolis for sending this in. This is actually just a top 10 list, 10 metal songs based on or inspired by Stephen King's work. This is by Eduardo Rivadavia from Loudwire on the 21st of September 2018.
Can you help me out? What's with the metal world loving King?
It's just
I'm not in the metal world, so maybe that's why I miss it. Like I
think it just goes along with like Lovecraft is big in heavy metal. Like just I think like metal in general tends to gravitate towards there's all kinds of things that they gravitate towards, but in general I think even in the fandom, like metal fans tend to love horror movies, and I feel like that permeates up to like the actual musicians. Like it's just something stylistically that the musicians tend to be horror movie fans as well. So it's just like this weird peanut butter and jelly thing that they're just
okay.
yeah, I don't know. It's certainly something that, like I said, like Lovecraft, there's like, I'm sure somebody could do an entire podcast and just cover like Lovecraft in pop culture. I mean, we know Stephen King's inspired by Lovecraft and stuff, but like there's tons of stuff in like metal that attributes to that. And like, I feel like it's like the darker things like that tend to gravitate towards metal more, like if you're doing a metal song, you're not going to go like love song, right? You're not going to be writing a song about the love of your life. I mean, not saying it doesn't happen, but it's a lot less likely than say, the
death of 15 people.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and like, I don't know, even like me, I almost like use like the term heavy metal as a descriptive thing. And there's times I'm just like with a horror movie, it's like, this is freaking metal as fuck, like
that's a fair point. You do.
Yeah.
I've heard that phrase come out of your mouth before in the middle of a movie. So like, yeah.
So yeah, it's peanut butter and jelly. I don't know. It's one of those, maybe it's hard to explain where it originated or if it's just a stylist thing, but like, yeah, it's just, they just,
no,
jive.
it makes sense. It does. When you explain it that way, it definitely makes sense.
Yeah. And then the article here starts off and says, this may not be apparent to modern day metal fans, but throughout the 1980s, there was no stronger relationship between the world of music and literature than that between heavy metal and the works of the master of horror author Stephen King. And it says, no exaggeration, virtually every teenage boy who spent parts of that decade listening to metal in their bedrooms most likely was also flipping through the pages of Stephen King's growing bibliography. And it says, which is why so many bands wound up directly influenced by King's goosebump-evoking yarns. On the occasion of his birthday, September 21st, we're obviously getting to this late, we felt like celebration was in order. Also, for those interested, they also give a Spotify link that gives you the playlist that we're about to go through,
nice.
A playlist of these songs. So I'll have that in the show notes, so check that out. The first one is Anthrax, Among the Living, 1987. It says probably the first song anyone thinks of when heavy metal and Stephen King are spoken in the same breath. The title track to Anthrax's most cerebral or celebrated album may as well have been a mini soundtrack for King's epic novel The Stand. In Among the Living, the New York quintet openly references specific plot devices, disease, etc., and characters, the walking dude. This was the first of several Anthrax songs. See A Skeleton in the Closet and Misery Loves Company, inspired by King's works. So they've definitely, Anthrax is probably one of the most famous bands that's King
influence
loving.
Yeah.
Yeah, and throughout the years they've done a lot of stuff that's referenced Stephen King and stuff, so that's pretty cool. Number 2, Metallica, Ride the Lightning, 1984, name of a track and the album, as a matter of fact. And it says, however, Anthrax were hardly the first metal band to draw inspiration from Stephen King and The Stand in particular. Why all of 3 years earlier, the biggest of all thrash bands had covertly borrowed a phrase from said novel for what turned out to be their sophomore album title track, Ride the Lightning. As the story goes, Kirk Hammett saw the phrase while reading The Stand and suggested it to James Hetfield. Stephen King used the phrase decades later when he used it in his serial novel, The Green Mile. So, I actually am... I'm right in the middle of The Stand right now. You just read it not too long ago.
Yeah.
Ride the Lightning. Was that Lloyd?
Yeah, the lawyer that comes in and kind of lays like the hard truth on him.
Yeah.
Is the... Why did my phone just like reset everything? Sorry. The one he's like, yeah, and he's explaining like how Arizona
Within
has
a
that
week
new
and
special
stuff,
courts. Yeah, we're going to trial in 3 days. You're going to be dead. You're going to be riding the lightning in 10. And he's like, that's where Lloyd's like, no, that's not fair.
Yeah. So
Punk's the one that did it. Punk's the one that pokerized him.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting that, a pretty iconic Metallica album drew from that.
So long, Chris.
Oh, yeah. See you, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Stop calling me a Flag fan. Bad Chris.
Oh, you are, sir. Deep down.
No.
Deep down, you're an avid fan of The Walking Dude.
No.
And that's why you just read The Stand. You just had to have another fix.
You know why I read The Stand.
Yeah, Flag.
No.
M-O-O-N. That spells Randall Flagg.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, next up, AC/DC, Who Made Who, 1986. Anyone who's read Stephen King's book knows that this inspiration conversation is a two-way street because King routinely mentions his favorite bands and songs in his work. Among his favorites were AC/DC, so when the author was given carte blanche to write the script for and direct 1986's horror comedy Maximum Overdrive, he promptly asked AC/DC to help with the soundtrack. The result was Who Made Who, a single that aged nearly as poorly as King's movie, which unfortunately was a resounding box office flop. So, yeah, that's definitely a song that, I can't say that still gets played. I don't know what they play anymore, but I know like their live record, for instance, AC/DC, I know they play that song on there. So that's, kind of interesting. Black Sabbath, song titled The Shining, 1987.
Wow.
By comparison, Stanley Kubrick's cinematic version of King's novel, The Shining, starring Jack Nicholson, has gone down as an absolute classic of the horror genre, despite the author's grumbling about some changes made to his original plot. And the story certainly served Black Sabbath well by inspiring perhaps their best song, not sung by Ozzy Osbourne or Ronnie James Dio, in, you guessed it, The Shining. Instead, you have Tony Martin, who did the honors on 1987's very underrated Sabbath opus, The Eternal Idol. So, that's interesting. Next up, Testament, Disciples of the Watch, 1988. Not only Stephen King's novels were mined for film adaptations and musical inspirations, the prolific author's numerous short stories were fair game as well, including a particularly unsettling example named Children of the Corn, first published in Penthouse magazine in 1977, then made into a movie in 1984. This tale of creepy kids in control of occult forces run amok against the elders became great fodder for Disciples of the Watch, maybe the best cut on the sophomore album by the Bay Area Thrasher's Testament. Next up, Ramones, Pet Sematary, 1989.
Why am I not surprised?
What?
Just been listening to a lot of Stephen King, dude. He references the Ramones a lot.
Yeah, well, here's what it says. This is, although King and AC/DC's pairing have proved disappointing for all involved, Stephen waited just a few years to try combining horror and music again. So in 1989, King asked another one of his favorite bands, the Ramones, to pen a theme for his latest novel turned motion picture, Pet Sematary, and the results can only be described as fun. Leave it to the brothers to make light of a terrifying novel led by Joey Ramone's tongue-in-cheek words, "I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery." So, yeah, one of his favorites. Certainly one that gets mentioned a lot. So,
tangent time. I finished that novel that you wanted me. I guess is it still a novel if it's a biography on a historical picture?
No,
person?
No, I think it's just like a biography.
It's a biography, right?
Yeah.
So you suggested this one because we're both pretty big history fans. It was on Douglas MacArthur.
Yeah.
I finished that on Wednesday, and I was sitting there looking at my Audible going, what am I going to listen to? Do I want to go back and listen to Dr. Sleep? Well, the movie's still a little bit away with Ewan McGregor. Maybe I should wait on that.
2020, it is a ways away.
It's a little bit of ways away. I'm like, I haven't read the Harry Potter series for a while. Maybe I should go read that. Nah. Just did Dark Tower. I do have 2 credits. Hopped over into my wish list. Top Pet Sematary.
Oh,
and I'm like, it's under $15. I kind of follow the TAD rule that if it's under $15,
you could just buy it.
I could just buy it. It's not worth the credit and everything like that. And then I looked at it. Do you know who narrates the audiobook for that since it just came out this year?
Oh, I heard because it was kind of big news because that one was like one of the big King novels that didn't have an audiobook, so it was kind of like one of those, it was a really big omission. So when it came out, it was a lot of fanfare. I don't remember who it was, though.
Dexter.
Oh, yeah, Michael C. Hall.
I can't remember his name, the actor's name. I never finished Dexter, but his voice, primo.
Yeah.
Primo. Well, so when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm not even hesitating on this. So I used one of my credits and I got it.
Okay.
So I am currently listening to Pet Sematary.
So speaking of authors, the movie last night featured Will Patton, which is probably now one of the most of the new King golden era of King here. He's certainly probably the voice of it, right? He's narrated more of King's books over the last 10, 15 years than probably anyone.
I got 4 in my head that he's done that I've listened to.
He did the entire Hodges trilogy. He did Dr. Sleep.
I forgot he did Dr. Sleep. So Dr. Sleep, the 3 Mr. Mercedes Hodges ones, and The Outsider.
Yeah, they do The Outsider
He did
too.
do The Outsider.
And I want to. He may have a few others too, but it's just one of those things that, like, yeah, like there's a few times he said dialogue in Halloween where I was like,
wait a minute,
I'm like, that's Stephen King.
I was sitting
like,
there.
it just resonates now as Stephen King, just like Frank Muller. If I hear Muller, if I buy an audiobook that happens to have him that's completely unrelated, it's like, this is Dark Tower.
So speaking of authors, performers reading different books, it didn't dawn on me until a part of the like an hour or so in. The guy who reads the American Caesar book on Douglas MacArthur is the guy that does The Stand.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I was like, Jesus Christ.
There was a point in that book when I was doing the MacArthur book that, like, he said a phrase that was just like instantly like, bam, like,
that's The Stand.
I was like, that's The Stand. Like, and so I pulled up my app and looked. I'm like, it is. I checked the names. I'm like, it's the same guy.
Yeah.
It's so weird to me because sometimes it will. Sometimes somebody will vocally say something that just suddenly snaps me. And honestly, Will Patton, I don't even think I pieced together that he had done Dr. Sleep until midway through the first book of the Hodges trilogy. He had said a phrase that was enough to where it just clicked where I'm like, holy shit, Dr. Sleep. And then like I checked and realized, and like then it finally connected who he was. You know, he's been in a few movies over the years, but like, I mean, not a few. He's been in a lot.
He's been in a lot. The thing I always remember him from, and I don't know why, is Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah,
because he plays like the helper for the brothers and everything like that.
Yeah,
and I love his voice. His voice is great.
He's got a
like
great one. Yeah,
especially like the detective side with like Mr. Mercedes, like with Hodges and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
I feel like he has like that, like sinister, not that he's sinister, but he has like the tone of his voice is very flat, not in a bad way, but like I think it fits with like the desolate feel that Dr. Sleep had. Yeah. I think it fit Dr. Sleep really well, and I'm having a hard time like articulating exactly why, but there's something about his voice not being like, it's very level. It doesn't like, he doesn't like jump all over the place, peak and valley of like he just has a very like drawn out, like weird, it's
a very real adaptation. It's not someone who's
spooky,
trying to perform,
and it feels spooky,
and it makes it really does make tense moments and stuff like that. Who's really good in like The Outsider as well with that, because The Outsider has a bit of like more than the human element there.
Yeah, and
so when he goes beyond that, even though he's supposed to be like this detective voice and this is kind of a mystery of sorts, and then he's able to continue and bring that eeriness that's supposed to be like the human element into the supernatural element. The crossing there should be a little bit more difficult for someone like him, but it's just not. It's so good.
And he is like in my mind, like even if I'm reading like with Hodges, like that's Hodges' voice is Will Patton. So
yeah, it was awesome last night to see him, because it was like
he isn't in a lot of movies anymore. He's slowed down over the last 10 years or so.
Well, he's been doing a lot of fucking audiobooks.
Yeah, he's been doing audiobooks now. Yeah.
And those don't exactly take like one day to do. I mean,
no, I can only imagine.
It seriously dawned on me. I think it was The Outsider when I was looking at it. It's like, what is it, like 14 hours or something like that for it? And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this dude's been talking for 10 hours. Like, wait, so if he does 5 hours a day and he has to do like parts over again where they're like, no, that didn't go, let's do it again, let's do that part again.
I'd probably say I would venture a guess that it probably takes them double. They probably read about double the length that it ends up being.
At least.
Yeah,
at least. That's a conservative.
So like, call it a 17-hour book. Double that is probably the amount of time that a narrator would do. Not to mention, like, do they go
reads?
Do they go through and like mark things in the book to, like, do they prep? Like, what's their prep behind? Like, I'm sure there's a lot involved. I mean, I think that ultimately comes down to why especially in the past, audiobooks were so expensive, right? Like when we were younger, like audiobooks were like book on tape, right?
Yeah,
like they were so niche and so whatever, and they were expensive as hell. I remember at points we were selling electronics. There was every so often we get audio like book on tape type things. They were $70-$80, and 7
CDs.
Not tape, CDs at the time, but it's just one of those things.
Same thing.
But it comes down to is there's a lot of work involved in it.
There is, and that's something that just never.
And there's not well, now I'd say that maybe Audible's changed that, but by and large in the past, there's never been a massive audience for them. Now I think Audible's changed it, and I think that's why you're starting to see prices taper way down, because now suddenly there's a huge market for people
demand.
that are, people that drive, people that are on the subway, people that whatever, constantly with headphones, they could be like quote reading.
Yeah, the big thing.
So it's big. It's a big thing now.
Yeah,
and I think it's great, and I love seeing like the talent involved, like you said, like the guy that played Dexter, Will Patton doing the Stephen King stuff. Like it's really cool, to hear. Janeway, the lady that played Janeway in Star Trek Voyager, did Nosferatu, the Stephen King son's book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she did that, and it was just like instantly I knew. I'm like, oh, this is freaking Captain Janeway from Star Trek Voyager.
Sissy Spacek reads Carrie.
Yeah, dude, which is brilliant.
I know, right? That's just like so perfect.
Yeah, I'm just glad they haven't got what's her name to do Misery.
Kathy Bates.
Yeah, dude. Seriously, if I met that woman, I would be like, I'd be like, I want an autograph, but I'm going to stand a little bit further back than normal.
you pull out a measuring stick and measure like 4 feet, and she's like, why 4 feet? Well, that's about how far you can reach me with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, next up, number 7, Blind Guardian, Tommyknockers, 1990. One of Stephen King's most underrated epic novels, 1987's The Tommyknockers, saw the author's trademark brand of mystery and terror emerge with science fiction, leading to one of the most distinctive triumphs. And, of course, like most King works, this, too, would eventually be adapted for screen, and then in parentheses, in this case, it's a TV miniseries.
Was it?
Yeah.
Or is it?
It was in the early 90s.
Oh, damn.
Or no, wait. Or is that the one they have upcoming? Yeah,
I thought Tommyknockers was upcoming.
Adapted for screen in 1993. They're doing it. I think they're doing it again, but I think that is one of those ones that like if you find like those multi-pack Stephen King that has like 5 bad adaptations in it. I believe Tommyknockers is one of those ones. Then it says German power metal greats Blind Guardians released this spirited rampage in 1990, which recounted Tommyknockers' story. So that's a little bit more in the heavier realm. Then number 8, let's see, I'm not sure on the name of this band. Gehenna, Deadlights, 1998. Even decades after its original publication in 1985, Stephen King's ghost story, to end all ghost stories, named simply and terrifyingly It, remains a perennial favorite for fans and creators alike. New metal fans with long memories may recall the short-lived California band calling themselves Deadlights after one of the novel's most memorable plot devices, but Norwegian black metal terrors Gehenna were the ones who aptly captured King's monstrous vision with their equally petrifying, violently atmospheric music. Listen for yourselves. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely give this playlist a listen for sure.
Of course you will.
And then number 9, Savage Circus, It, The Gathering, 2005. Meanwhile, also in 2005, Blind Guardian's former drummer Thomas Staunch was busy launching a new band named Savage Circus, whose eponymous debut would wound up beating several songs inspired by Stephen King's stories. Coincidence? Well, who cares? Because the most obvious among these was the inspired power metal nugget called It, The Gathering. So that's going to be pretty fun. We've talked about some Dark Tower ones in the past, but this is kind of cool to see some of these other ones. The last one here, Demons and Wizards, The Gunslinger, 2005. It says Wizards and Blind. Let's see. Blind Guardian crops up again on our list. This time, the voice of their singer Hansi Kirsch and the super side project with Iced Earth guitarist Joe Schaefer. Demons and Wizards. Clearly, these guys were a pair of Stephen King assesses because they crafted not only one song but an entire concept album inspired by King's 7-part Magnum Opus, The Dark Tower, which I believe we may have talked about this one before. Those of you who have slogged through the mega novels, incredibly amalgam of horror and fantasy will know that the Gunslinger is the protagonist, so we'll focus on that song for here. I do believe we may have talked about that before because it's a whole album with like all Dark Tower related stuff.
Yeah, we did.
So
I think we even put like the cover
the
of
cover,
it up,
yeah, because Crimson King was involved, something on the cover too, so that was good to represent the winning side there.
No. Winning side, they lose everything.
Yeah, till it all starts over again, and back to the winning side, sir. And you know what? Any side that Randall Flagg is on is the right side by me.
No, just why? Well,
Hey, I'm knee deep in the middle of the stand right now, sir. It is glorious to see the man at probably his biggest biggest and most I don't know what highest achieving for certainly with building a whole community there.
He doesn't win.
Eh.
Never wins. Never.
I'd say Dark Tower is the one where I guess we could we'll never know unless King writes something that shows us any kind of finality, but certainly doesn't lose.
He loses.
Okay, and then the only other small notes I wanted to mention, couple headline things, Pet Sematary trailer.
Oh, that trailer is fucking creepy.
I was about to say, had you seen it until last night?
Yeah.
Because we saw it with Halloween,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I don't get notifications for trailers. Like I don't have Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't get notifications where it's like new trailer has been dropped. So
Yeah.
like I don't, because like I don't. You taught me really early on with YouTube is that there's a lot of those crappy sites out there that's like, come watch the trailer for Pet Sematary here, and then they put like their shit in front of it.
Yeah.
And their shit behind it, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
So the best way to find a trailer is to find the studio.
Yeah, find their...
Yeah, so like just a perfect example is like I don't know who makes Pet Sematary, so it's like prime example is the sequel to the Harry Potter prequel that's coming out.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So I go find that trailer, but it says from Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Or like the new X-Men one. When
Yeah.
It was like Dark Phoenix or whatever it was.
Yeah.
From Fox.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I don't exactly like want to subscribe to Fox because they're going to put out a bunch of shit that I don't give a crap about.
Yeah.
So I don't get notifications for that, but I peruse YouTube on a constant basis because I have a little kid who is so goddamn obsessed with pet videos. It's ridiculous. She is so fucking obsessed with goddamn pet videos.
Yeah.
That it's just like on a daily basis, at least once, it's going to be like, all right, let's go watch a couple pet videos. And we'll peruse YouTube. And usually because of my previous trailer history watch, I mean, I watched.
You get notifications about.
Yeah,
or not notifications, but like
suggested.
Suggested.
Yeah, exactly. So like it popped up and it's like Pet Sematary. I was like, go to your room. I was like, go to your room. You're not watching this. I was like, I'm watching this right now because literally it was like the day that I downloaded the book and started the book.
Yeah,
when it dropped, which was like, what was that? Like Tuesday or Wednesday when it dropped?
Yeah, something like that.
And
I know you're a huge John Lithgow fan, so you got to be happy about that.
I fucking love John Lithgow with a passion, which is why you keep trying to get me to watch at least up to the season that he's in Dexter.
Yeah.
But, like, I love John Lithgow, and that goes back to my fucking days of watching the rated R movies in my dad's collection when he was the bad guy in Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
With Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, indeed.
And Third Rock from the Sun. I fucking loved Third Rock from the Sun with a passion. I still do. I love that show so much. I need to find that and see if it's on one of the streaming services.
It was on Amazon at one point. I don't know if it still is or not.
I need to find that because that show is so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it hasn't aged well, but I'm still gonna go watch it.
Yeah.
But seriously, I watched that trailer, dude. I freaked out. Because I know the premise of Pet Sematary. I know kind of what happens because I've seen the movie.
Yeah.
But I've never read the novel, which is why I tried to read it on the Kindle and everything like that. And I can't. I don't have time to read anymore.
Yeah.
But I have the drive to work. So I'm listening to it on Audible now. And it's like, even already, like, it's creepy as hell.
Yeah.
It is. It's a creepy as hell book. And it doesn't help that Stephen King introduces it with, like, this is my most terrifying novel. Enjoy. And it's like, good. What?
Yeah.
Oh, he's putting me there. Oh god, this is not gonna go well. So when that trailer came out, I watched it and I was like, and then I showed my wife, who like I said is expressing a new interest in horror films. She stood there in the front room. She didn't sit because she was like on break from work. She works from home, and seriously, she was just standing there. She just watched it. And she's just like, yeah, no. she's like no, and I'm like, come on. She's like, no, and I don't know if I want her to watch it or not.
Yeah,
I can't decide if it's one of those ones that is it worth it, or is it going to be like I think I said this a couple podcasts ago. Is it worth it, or do I have to deal with the nightmares for 3 weeks?
Oh man, I love the spirit of it. And the only other nugget that I had here was I saw an article that the director was interviewed for Dr. Sleep. Mike Flanagan, I believe, and he said that they are 100% shooting to have an R-rated movie.
Hell yeah!
So, Yeah, that's some good news.
I could definitely see Dr. Sleep without having to have an R rating, but it makes it a little bit better knowing that it's going to
and I think for all indicators are showing right now that Halloween's about to have a pretty massive weekend. So
Good Lord, did you see what they pulled in last niite?
I didn't, no.
Dude, they were saying that they pulled in like $10 million alone on just a Thursday night.
You know, the all-time record for the franchise is like $27 million for the opening weekend. And I'm like, I think they're going to blow that away. I think they might be doubling that easily. So I feel like that might help. Maybe again, Hollywood's so copycat that like all it took is a few horror movies to come out that were R-rated, and I feel like that's going to shift the balance back to where people aren't afraid to make R-rated horror movies. So
it's about damn time.
Yeah. So that,
good God.
I mean, it was rated R. We can give them credit for that.
That's true.
Like, and that might be one of the ones that helped turn the tables. But that should be good long term for King fans as we move forward. Is that R rating is not necessarily the poison that people expected it to be. So we might see some more R-rated Stephen King movies. So that's always good. Well, the tablet decided to go and give itself some kind of update that's only 24% through, so we won't have an email jingle. But we are moving over to emails now. Let me switch over the thing here since I don't have my control panel. First off is Chris from Chicago. I'm almost certain we haven't gone through this. I have been slacking a little bit in terms of like making sure I delete out of, because I have like a lot of times what I do is with your guys' emails is I'll copy them into a document so that's a little bit bigger for my aged eyes. And then also
surgically repaired one as well. So let's not forget that.
Yeah, that's true. But just so it's like bigger, and also it's just like it'll just flow. I don't have to sit there and click around through different emails. I can just like scroll down and stuff. And I don't think we've read this one yet. If we did, I think there's a few different nights in the past that we've had accidentally read one a couple times. If we did, our apologies, but we'll see what happens. Chris from Chicago starts, Heil, Ted, and Peter.
Heil.
He says, I've emailed once before, and I don't think I gave you a way to distinguish myself from the many other Chris's listeners you have. You can call me Magic Bullet Chris on account of the very strange bullet physics in the movie, because his first one, he had talked about his frustration with the physics of the bullet, and I think it was actually where we realized that, like, oh yeah, if he bounced a bullet off, how would like it catch up to like another bullet that you know what I mean? And we hadn't really thought about that, but like once you do, it's like, oh yeah,
yeah.
So this Chris from Chicago, and I also added the town there because I think he gave that to us in this email. So now we have, that's usually what we do. But he goes on and says, at any rate, I'm still continuing on my journey through the back catalog of podcasts. I'm currently listening to Roundtable number 22. And he's probably well more caught up at this point now because we've been sitting on some of these emails for a bit. He says, you started talking about why you go back to certain books and stories, and the first thing that you think of when you start to reread a story like It or The Dark Tower. And he says, I just wanted to chime in and say that for me, the first thing I think of when I start to read any King book is just how much I love reading in general. I give a book 50 pages to grab me, and if it doesn't in that allotted time into the tech, or if it doesn't grab me in that allotted time, it's on to the next. And that's an interesting thing. Do you have anything like that? Like, have you like, because like for me, like for a movie and even in TV shows, there's times like if I get into something and it's not like I'm not gonna sit and watch like 15 seasons of a show if I hate it, but like True Detective season 2 was god awful, but I fucking watched through the whole goddamn thing.
Well, yeah, but the big thing there is that was 8-10 episodes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, like if it was a show that's like 15 seasons in, and I don't like it right from the, I'll stop. But like when it comes to books, I don't know how often I've dealt with this. So what about you? Do you have any kind of barometer for when you just give up on something?
I don't think I've ever noped out of a book. I think I finished a book, looked at it, and went, "Wow, that was a piece of shit," and threw it away.
Yeah.
Or accidentally buy another copy of it, like I did with that dumbass Dean Koontz novel that I own. I have no idea how it happened. I bought this Dean Koontz novel that's supposed to be about like this one scientist is developing mind control drugs or something, and testing it on some small fucking rural town in like Washington or something like that. And it was an okay book. Dumb third act, dumb conclusion.
Yeah. And
I'm a huge fan of one of Dean Koontz's novels, Watchers. I've talked about it before on the show. I'm a huge fan of that one, so I gave more Dean Koontz a chance after that one. And I think this one's like called like Nighttime or Night Summer or something. Night something.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. I honestly thought I threw the book out.
Yeah.
I have 2 copies of it sitting in my fucking apartment. I have no idea how the hell that happened.
Cut off one head and 2 will replace it.
I have no idea how it happened, but I have 2 copies of this book, and I'm like, I'm scared now to throw it away. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'll end up with 4. Like, no.
That's the next Stephen King novel. Somebody tries to throw away a book he doesn't like, and it just keeps replicating.
Yeesh. Imagine if it did that with a doll.
That'd be great.
Throw away a clown doll, and all of a sudden you have 2.
Yeah. And they get bigger each time.
No, they don't need to get bigger. That's the thing. Is dolls are scary enough when they're not big. like no.
Yeah, because I'm thinking to myself, I'm generally a little bit choosy when it comes to getting into a book. Not that I like go in and read reviews and stuff, but like I almost feel like for me, I get a lot of my barometer is just from the start, like not judging a book by its cover, but it's like if the premise doesn't grab me, you know, I'm not going to buy the book, you know, whatever. Like it has to catch me to get into it. And usually if like I have enough like to where I'm just like, I don't know, like, yeah, if it doesn't get past that test, whatever. But if it does, usually it's enough to carry me through the whole book. Sometimes, I'm just like, I'll never read that again. Sometimes I'm just like, God, that was fucking... But I don't necessarily quit on them because usually there's at least some element of, like, something that drew me into it, and I at least want to see it through on that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I've been through some bad... Especially, like, in, like, the era when I was reading a lot of Star Wars of the expanded universe.
Yeah.
There were some pretty god-awful things I read back then that was, like hair-pullingly bad. But, like...
See, if
now I'm thinking about this, like maybe I should have more of a policy like this.
It's entirely possible because like the thing is like if you go look at my wish list on Audible, I have 2 Star Wars novels, which you have both recommended both of them. I have The Man in the High Castle, 2 documentary books for the Easy Company Band of Brothers.
Yeah,
the Audible side of those, which I've read one of them before. The other one is the Major Winters.
Oh yeah, I actually have that real book, like the physical book.
Yeah, and you've told me about it. The rest are Stephen King novels. Oh, and A Summer Nights. It's something that one of our fans suggested.
Well, it isn't. It doesn't hurt that King writes as much as he does.
Yeah,
It's easy to fill up a wish list of Stephen King books because there's so many out there.
And that's the thing is like I'm kind of boring when it comes to that. Is like I don't. Oh, I have The Man in the High Castle. I don't know if I said that.
You did, yeah.
I did, yeah. So I have that, and then I have Stephen King.
Yeah.
And then I have that one book that our fans suggested. I can't remember which fan it was, but I think it's called A Summer Nights. It's like Dan something. Dan Smith? No, that's not right. That's the joke from that funny football video. But it's about 4 boys.
Okay, but it's one of the recommendations for the episode.
It's a recommendation.
Yeah.
So it's like I have recommendations kind of things there, and then I have Stephen King.
Yeah.
It's kind of the kind of where I go. So I don't usually, I got to be perfectly honest, I don't put myself out there.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to reading, and like I said before,
and
I can't read. I do the Audible side of things, so that's
just no time for it.
Yeah,
that's me now, especially like if it was you're talking to me in high school and stuff, it probably would have been different. But like now, like I have so little time to read that like I get way more choosy about what I even for Audible, man. Like because like I mean I listen to a lot. Like I'm listening to like a lot of different things, like podcasts and stuff on occasion here and there. Because like I ebb and flow with podcasts. Sometimes I hardly ever listen to them. Other times I'm listening to them a little bit more. But like even Audible, like I think like I started listening to The Stand a few days ago, and I want to say that maybe it was like a week and a half was the last time prior to that I had turned that on. Like I just hadn't for a chunk of time. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things. Like because of that, I don't know that I necessarily have like, but it's probably something that I would adopt. Like even some of the new Star Wars books that aren't necessarily terrible, but honestly, if I would have had something like this, because sometimes it's even like the author's style. Like obviously for King, we know what King is, but like there's times like Star Wars, they have like author X that's like he has just a way of writing that's just like, I don't like this, and like I muscled through them, and like maybe I should have just given up on them because I ended up not really overly caring for them. So it's a good
and we wasted our time on them.
It's a good possibility. Yeah, it's a good thing to maybe think about doing in the future for myself. He says, but sometimes I'm so put off by what I'm trying to read that I don't even want to start another book. But sometimes I'm so put off by what I'm trying to read that I don't even want to start another book. Okay, so the book is so bad that it stops you from reading altogether. Okay, just want to make sure I read that right. He says, if that's the case, I normally go back to some of my favorite King stories or start a new one of his, and it completely rekindles my love for reading. Okay, I see what he's saying. Yeah,
King's his comfort blanket when it comes to reading.
Yeah,
I love the thought of that King that appalled millions with his works is the comfort blanket for guys like Chris and me.
Yeah,
because that really is what it is for me. Is like if I want something and I want to be entertained with a book, I go look at the King novels that I already have. Like I just said, I was looking through my library and I was like, what should I read? should I go back and read Doctor Sleep again? I just read 11/22/63. I just read The Stand in the Dark Tower. That is my comfort. That's the same thing with me. It's like, okay, I finished something outside of the box. I finished this book about Douglas MacArthur.
But then you circle back to.
But then now I got to circle back with something in my comfort zone. And
yeah.
So what did I do? I went out and bought Pet Sematary.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I would say a similar. Like, I read a lot of history. I like true crime type stuff. Like, not necessarily like normal true crime, but like I love like books about serial killers and stuff like that. Like I have like a certain amount, but like overall, yeah, like King's probably like one of the big mainstays for sure.
He's definitely our comfy blanket. Like,
yeah,
Uncle Stevie.
Yeah, indeed. Then he finishes up and says, anyway, keep up the great work, pod slingers. And he says, nope, that just doesn't sound right. Gunslingers. Long days and pleasant nights. Chris from Chicago.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you,
word
Chris.
Slingers. I thought that's what.
Isn't that the author, though? Isn't that what they call King?
Yeah, they do call him a word slinger, so we're pod slingers.
Yeah, and hey, you know what? We actually hear that one quite a bit. So, like, if you don't like it, that's great. But I know there's other people that do. We'll take whatever. I don't know.
I'm not going to demand a title. I'm just Peter, so hi.
And I am Good Tad.
Hashtag Tad is terrible. You can't be good, Tad, when you have a hashtag dedicated to how evil you are.
Yeah, I think it's an unfair hashtag. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, guys, you want to hear how evil Tad is? I have a perfect example of how evil Tad is from last night at the movie.
I don't know about that.
We went to go walk up, and Tad's awesome because he likes to arrange to make sure. Because we went with a group. There was 6 of us there.
Yeah, 6.
And he likes to make sure that everything's kosher, that everything's taken care of. So he always buys the tickets ahead of time. He's great with that to make sure that it's on one phone. All 6 tickets are taken care of there. You know, it's not someone forgot to buy a ticket and now they have to sit off by themselves because now with arranged seating and pre-purchasing your seat and everything like that. He's great about that. We walked up and it was a little bit of a crowded night, surprisingly, for a Thursday night. We're like, wow, this is kind of weird. We got up to the ticket lady and he scans the ticket on his phone and the lady goes, Theater 14, sorry, we can't, we're still cleaning the theater. And we're like,
it's like 5
minutes before the show. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And she's like, sorry, someone threw up in there. And we're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So a couple of the guys go to the bathroom and everything like that. Me, my wife, and Tad are standing around just kind of loitering, talking. And then she's like, okay, the theater's ready. And we go in, we sit down. And one of our mutual friends was sitting between me and Tad. And I hear Tad lean over to him and goes, and this is one of those guys that we were talking about earlier that's terrified of horror movies. Okay?
Yeah, he
does not handle them well. He turtles is what we call it. He like folds his arm, he scrunches up, and he's just nope. Like there was one part in the film where someone was going to do something dumb, like all horror movies. Nope. Terrified. Before the movie starts, Tad leans over and goes, gee, I hope the person threw up because of the movie.
Well, yeah. It's a horror movie. Dude, if a movie's going to make someone yak, like, that means, like, they did a good job.
On the ride home, my wife goes, you know, I heard what Tad said about the person throwing up, and you know what? I can kind of see why someone might have thrown up from that movie.
Exactly. I still hope they threw up because of the movie.
You're so evil to hope that.
Why? It's better than just like, oh, I ate too much popcorn. No, like, let's have something that's so freaking gooey in the movie that makes someone yak. Like that's an achievement right there. That's all I'm saying.
I really wonder if it was the movie now. I want to know.
It could have been. I could have been. Okay, next up. Oh, we're gonna click over here. Cody from Kansas. And Cody, and he starts off, says, I know that Shooter Jennings had a song that was based on the Gunslinger, but I didn't know that the music video I saw on YouTube was part of a longer video done by him. This is the link to the full video, and he gives us a link, and I will have that on the show notes. And then he says, this is the Wikipedia section on it, and he says, let's see, then an excerpt from Wikipedia here. It says, while recording Family Man, Jennings decided to cut the darker tracks from the album and instead use them for the album's follow-up, The Other Life. And then it says, then a quote from Jennings here. It says, 5 of these songs were recorded when we were doing the Family Man, and when we were deciding what to do with it, we broke it up into 2 records. The Other Life is representative of the other side of the coin from Family Man, and the way my life has been going in a lot of ways. At first, we were going to call it The Outsider, but once we got into the film, we thought, well, it's just like a dark mirror of the Family Man was. Jennings told theboot.com. Jennings premiered the track Wild and Lonesome featuring Patty Griffin on the 4th season of FX original series Sons of Anarchy, followed by the release of the first official single from the album White Trash Songs featuring Scott H. Burham, which premiered at the RollingStones.com along with the announcement that the album would be accompanied by a film. The album featured 7 new songs as well as 2 cover songs and Outlaw You, which was put in an early 2012 as a digital release. Jennings, along with filmmaker Blake Judd, released the Other Life film, running 32 minutes long. Utilizes 6 of the songs from the album as a sort of narration. The film is about a musician leaving his family to tour, but when he does, he finds the road is not the same and becomes haunted by a mysterious woman. Throughout the film, the musician is forced to face darker urges and deal with self-discovery, temptation, isolation, and rebirth. The film closes with a short adaptation of King's Dark Tower, The Dark Tower. The Other Life went on to win Best Short Film at 2013 Horror Hound Festival. And he said, and then Cody signs off saying, "I thought the rest of the quartet might also enjoy it." So yeah, I'll have a link to that, and just kind of cool to see the larger perspective of that. And maybe there's people that don't know that Jennings did the Dark Tower thing. We actually watched it some time back, but we'll definitely have that in the show notes. And thank you, Cody, for sharing that. Always cool to see how things, I don't know, and like it'd be interesting, like I don't know how that necessarily fits in with how the Dark Tower thing fits in with the rest of that, because now that like hearing like what the larger perspective that he was doing there, maybe it was more of just like let's do this. But yeah, it's kind of cool. I'll definitely share it for sure in case people are unfamiliar with the Dark Tower thing. So next up is Aaron, and he says, let's see. Yeah, he starts off here, and I can't remember if he's emailed before. I'm not sure, but he starts off. It says, this is mostly for Peter, but we can both, but you can both answer. Peter, you said you were a Kuntz watch. You read Kuntz's Watchers.
Yeah,
but have you read the book Midnight? It's one of my favorite Kuntz novels.
Midnight.
And he says, I'm trying to think if I don't think he goes much more into that. Then he has some more stuff more related to what we're talking about. But I certainly haven't. I've never read any of Kuntz's stuff. I know Peter's read a few, but not necessarily.
I have read a bit from Kuntz, but that one turned me off. That one that I was describing earlier, I can't remember what that one was. Let me see.
It would have been funny if it was the same one.
I'm gonna laugh really hard if it is that one. I don't think it is.
Yeah, he doesn't give a lot of description, but he does ask that.
The book opens with 4 separate stories that quickly weave themselves together and become different viewpoints for one overarching plot.
Oh, okay. It's like a Rashman thing.
No, oh God, no! I don't want to read this.
Why?
First, Janice Capshaw, a nighttime jogger, is pursued and then killed by a pack of mysterious and nightmarish beasts. It literally says nightmarish beasts. No!
You gotta read it, man.
Oh, God, no!
Yeah, Peter doesn't like beasts.
No!
I love it.
That's one of the reasons. That's the reason why Watchers is so terrifying. Is it's like a genetically altered animal that's supposed to be like a super soldier.
Yeah,
kind of like a police dog on steroids is supposed to be able to like wipe out like army units by itself. So it's like a fucking monstrosity.
Well, Aaron, you have something at least now that I'll be leaning on Peter to be reading, because
no, I don't want to read about someone getting killed by beasts, monstrous beasts.
I actually didn't know
it says that.
Circling back around, actually, I didn't know you were so inclined to be scared of beasts until the October that
that's right.
I categorized your movies.
You gave me a creep show with that goddamn baboon. In the crate.
That and what's the cave diving one too?
The Descent.
The Descent. I was blanking on the title. Yeah. I love it.
Underground gremlin fucks.
Okay, then Aaron goes on. So I've been listening to your podcast for about 6 months now, trying to get caught up, but I'm still listening to the 2017 episodes. So yeah, I guess this is probably his first email then. I want to say that Aaron's a name we've heard before.
We've heard Aaron before, but it was with a town. I want to say it was Chicago, but that may be wrong.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah. So this is a new Aaron. He says, I've been a King fan for over 20 years. I own and have read most all of his novels.
Nice.
and finished the Dark Tower series just this year. And he says, my favorite books in the series are Drawing of the Three and Wolves of the Kala.
Yeah.
Wizard and Glass is next, followed by books 6, 7, and 3, Keyhole and 1. Although I'm a Flag/Man in Black fan.
God damn it.
I don't want to.
You had me, Aaron, until that point.
I don't want to finish this sentence, but I guess I'll have to. I have to acknowledge he's a great villain. Hashtag Tad is terrible.
Yes. You brought it back, Aaron. You brought it back.
He says Roland was my favorite character in my first reading, and someday I hope to reread them all. And that's definitely a noble undertaking. But yeah, I would generally venture people that if you've read it at one time, never rush yourself back to the series.
No.
Because generally you'll burn out at some point. Just make sure you're ready. Like me, I read The Stand basically every year up until recently. And I'm pretty much back on track to probably reading it every year again. But like The Stand is different, whereas The Dark Tower, a lot of times it might be a couple years between reads for me. It just I have to make sure I'm ready for it because it's such a big thing overall.
It's definitely an undertaking for it.
So
I can't believe I'm doing this.
What?
I'm going to go put Midnight on my wish list on Audible.
Hopefully we'll hear a Beast update in the future at some point. And then Aaron says, I'm very interested to hear your review of the movie. Just a few episodes to go now. So kind of gives us a perspective where he's at. But I guess, yeah, if he's in 2017. And then he finishes off saying, thanks for the podcast. Keep up the good work and long days and pleasant nights. Long days and pleasant nights, Aaron. Thank you for the email.
Thank you.
And hopefully you lead to Peter having the bejesus scared out of him. That would be the best. You're adding it to oh, I love it. I love it. And now that I have that knowledge, ever since then, you haven't let me set your movies for your horror film stuff.
Fuck no.
I don't know why.
No, hell no.
I don't know why you would be so distrusting.
Because you know that I'm scared of beasts, so you're going to purposely go out and find movies that have beasts.
Oh, I have 31 beast movies. You better believe.
do you seriously
No, I would, though. I would find. I'd be like finding like French like impressionistic movies that have like beasts. Like
See, that's the sad part, is there hasn't been a good, decent, scary werewolf movie in
since American Werewolf in London.
Silver Bullet, around that time frame is where maybe The Howling was okay.
The Howling's all right.
But they made a goddamn fucking vampires ruin everything. Goddamn Underworld, making it more about like a war instead of like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like I want.
Oh, I'm with you, man. It baffles me because werewolves just seem like awesome to me. But you don't have that like. No. Whereas like vampires, like there's a ton of vampire movies, and there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
With werewolves, I see you can count on one hand and still have some fingers left over the great werewolf movies that have ever been made. Mm-hmm. Easy. So
Ted, that's what we're gonna do. Me and you, we're gonna go make a good werewolf movie. I'll be hiding in the trailers the entire time that the beast is loose, but
the beast. I guess I'll have to like figure out some scientists that can genetically make me a real beast for the movie.
No.
That'd be the best way to do it.
No, stop it.
Okay, next up is OG Chris.
OG.
So let me. Whoa.
Skip. What? Wait. What? Huh?
What? There we go.
Whoa,
sorry.
What?
See.
Whoa.
See.
Whoa.
See. I don't have my freaking normal control panel. So like, I accidentally clicked a couple times there and had to back up. So
wait.
Chris.
Wait. What? What's going on?
This is Chris. I accidentally clicked a couple times over there because I don't know. Whatever.
I sense a plot to destroy the Peter.
How's your water coming there?
Shit, I drank it all.
All right. Well, you'll be feeling the effects soon. Okay. Chris starts off. Hello, fellow Martin fans.
No. Just come on.
Yeah, he's got us there. He's got us there.
We're not fans.
Mr. Broadcloak.
No.
He's a good man.
No.
He says, it's been a while since I wrote you an email. I haven't had the opportunity to listen to the podcast. And he says, and some advice, if you don't have to, don't apply for a physics major. I had to because I wanted to get a job on this promising new company named NCP. They make joyful robots and trains. Seems legit. He says, just catching up. So glad to hear about the community and Chris's awesome mapping work, adapting Flag's Samaritan mission to save the world from Captain Trips. Yeah, the stand map, which is awesome, from Chris from Australia.
So cool.
And so that's we definitely need to talk to Chris about his newer projects at some point in the future from Australia. We definitely have to coordinate that and have him on the show again. That was definitely fun for the first time we did that.
Yeah.
Then Chris here goes on and says, this is a brief email just to ask if the Unfound episodes are still a thing, since I think I took the challenge way too serious, and I'm finishing all of the 70s books with Night Shift, and I have to say that there are references to the Dark Tower characters, and he says apart from the obvious ones with Salem's Lot and other characters from the books like It, in a period of time before the Dark Tower was conceived as Stephen King's extended universe. It's definitely still happening. I think that like I kind of went off track of like going chronologically, and honestly, like I said earlier, I've had a rough time getting time to read everything, or to read in general, let alone to do this project as quickly as I wanted to. So it's and like right now, like we were actually going to do The Outsider because we both ended up reading that. But at this point now, I probably would want to at least brush up on it before doing an episode. But yeah, I think the plan is the next one will be for The Outsider, and then I'm going to bounce back and probably do it for The Stand, which I'm reading currently. So I'm going to try to stay somewhat like close chronological, but not entirely. I'm not going to be a complete slave to chronological order, because every so often the mood might strike me to just maybe hop a book or two and then come back to it later type thing. So that's kind of where we're at on the Unfound Door episodes. We definitely know that those have been a little bit more neglected, but they're not forgotten. And then he goes on and says, it's amazing to me to catch references here and there, and it makes me think how Cy King had the vision of future books and characters. Anyway, I hope these episodes continue, as I still have more than 60 books to go. Yeah, they're definitely still going to happen, but yeah, you're definitely going to be ahead on them. But yeah, we'll still be going on that. And yeah, definitely King. It's very interesting to see what he's built in a lot of ways. Like now we're in this world where everyone wants to build like cinematic universes, and he's definitely one that built a universe, in his books.
Could you imagine if a studio got the rights to everything?
Oh, I'm just hoping, honestly, that filmmakers just go rogue and make connections to things
without having them be in their property.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping, but I'm not super hopeful that it will happen. But I'm just kind of hoping that somebody will do it.
Yeah,
I don't know. Then he says the other quick question is if the Broadcloak Summit will happen for Peter to finally admit that his secret fandom toward the Man in Black. It's definitely still on the docket. We're actually going to. It's going to happen this year for sure.
Yeah.
We just need to figure out the exact timing for it.
I had this thought the other day, and sorry guys to drop this on Tad without talking to him. Maybe that's what we end on this year.
For the year finale.
Since we usually take like a week or two off, an episode or two off, maybe that's what we drop on people is the Flag Summit.
Could be. It would be.
It'll give you time. It'll give you time to get through the Stand, because that is one thing that we talked about. I don't know if we did it on the air or not. The Stand is going to be a part of that discussion.
Yeah,
it has to be.
Yeah,
that's not even fair to say.
And we don't have to get into all the other stuff necessarily. Mm-hmm. Like we don't have to go Eye of the Dragon stuff. But I feel like Dark Tower and Stand at least. So just for him.
Yeah. So I'm putting that out there tentatively. This is not for sure, guys. I think last show of the year should be the Flag Summit.
Yeah, I am down to defend the honor of my boy. And then
Roland? I thought Roland was your boy.
I mean, he's in the 2 spot. I mean, Flag, of course, is my ultimate boy.
You're so disappointing.
Hey, he's not a junkie though.
He is.
He makes sure junkies don't survive in his under his rule. I just read that scene recently. And then he says, glad to hear your podcast again. And yeah, we're definitely glad to have you listening again. But yeah, good luck on getting your degree there. That's definitely probably a tough thing to do. But yeah, congrats
wait,
on that.
Was he serious about the physics degree and joking about the North Central Positronics thing?
Or serious about it all?
Or serious about it all. Like, there's a serious question here, Chris. We need answers, boy.
And also, thanks for joining us in the chat earlier. I think
was that OG Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, it was OG Chris.
Yeah.
Dang it, he's not here anymore. We can't ask him.
Yeah. But yeah, so he chimed in a little bit. We said goodbye earlier, but yeah, so got to his email as well. And he says, long days and pleasant nights. OG Chris from the Sombra Corp training camp. So I'm starting to think, sir, maybe it's real.
So you can blame him for all the tech issues that we have.
Or the pink train that will start up here pretty soon, probably.
Ugh, no.
transcontinental.
You could
bullet
not.
train.
You could not pay me to get on a plane.
Really?
No.
Really, dude. Even with all the tech and stuff, like imagine being able to have one that went translucent, so you could see everything that you were passing.
Nope. Nope. I'm not scared of heights or speed. I do roller coasters and everything like that, but my God, dude, I nope. I'm not trusting a murderous fucking train with my life. I'm not as clever as Eddie to stop it. And I know damn well you aren't either.
Oh, what? To sell some stupid jokes and piss off a train? Okay, next up is Cody with a short one here. He says, I was on a 12-hour cannonball drive to western Colorado. When I passed through Denver, I saw the sign and had to make an unscheduled stop. And this is, that's all he pretty much had, just a quick one here.
Good God, it's Tower Road.
And you know what, dude? It's in Denver. I swear to God, we have one not somewhere in Utah too, because I think twice I've been on longer road trips where I was like going south, be it to Vegas or California. And so I was on both times I was like on a road trip that was like a little bit longer to where I couldn't justify because I missed it, so I would have had to circle back around to like get to it and see like whatever, take pictures. So I wasn't able to justify it, but I do think there is one here as well. A Tower Road. So that one of these days I'll have to check that out. But that's awesome, Cody. And then he also has another one here. Tower Road.
Oh.
So that's pretty great.
See how far away Tower Road, Utah is from us.
Oh, you're looking it up now.
Yeah, it doesn't pull up anything. It's like pulling up like businesses.
Oh, okay. Or maybe because no, I haven't driven enough through Denver that it wouldn't have been the same one. There's no way. Like I've driven to Denver, but I know I've driven past the Tower Road thing I'm talking about at least twice. I've only been to Denver once. So.
I think it's on the way to Vegas if I remember right, because I think
going down through Utah somewhere.
Yeah, I think I remember it.
Yeah. And you've driven down south a little bit more than me, maybe a different like
just a couple years ago I went down to Vegas.
Well, and also even just going down south to a different part of the state, but you fork off at a certain point.
Yeah.
So it may be on the other side of that fork to where it's going down the other side of the state. But yeah, there is one here somewhere. But yeah, that's pretty cool, and we definitely appreciate the pictures of Tower Road there. Yeah, it's that's great. I wonder if there's robots plowing the streets.
Bill.
Okay, I think I'm looking at where we're at now in terms of emails. All the other ones are longer to where I don't know if I want to dive into them. I think we might be time to kind of wrap up the actually I'll do one. I actually don't have a slide thing for it. But one that just came in, but I wanted to address because it was just I think either I made a mistake or something with the shift of the website. And this is Michael from North Carolina. He says, "Hi, all pod slingers."
Hi.
He says, "This is Michael from North Carolina. I'm reading. Thanks for reading my email about mine and my daughter's tattoos, which I do remember.
Oh yeah,
that.
I remember that."
It says, "I'm a little bit behind on listening to the posts, but I've been listening to because I've been listening to Uncle Stevie's work, which is a perfect reason to not listen to our show."
Absolutely.
And he says, "Anyway, I wanted to let you know that our tattoos are not on the website. At least I couldn't find them anywhere. If you were going to post them, I wanted to let you know that they weren't there." And then he signs off, "Long days, pleasant nights." So I'm with that. I just got this emails came through in the last few days, but I'm guessing what happened is one of two things. Either I missed it. Sometimes, especially in the email side, I'll forget because a lot of times I'll set up these slideshows in advance, and like this one here with the Tower Road has been up on this probably for like a couple shows now.
In case we got to emails. We weren't getting to emails.
In case we got far enough into the emails, but sometimes we don't dive deep enough. So what may have happened is when we finally got to it, I may have forgotten to put it in there. Either that or I did end up we ended up doing a massive transfer on the website.
Yeah.
Moving from the way that we had it set up before, moving it over to where we're at now. And I am curious if any of our media got lost
Oh, maybe
as we transferred over, because it was a pretty big flip to flip basically everything that we've done over 3 years, something like that.
Yeah,
now.
there was a span of months there where you were dealing with that and just not having the time and everything like that to get everything figured out.
Yeah, with
the shift for the website, so that is entirely possible.
Yeah,
do we still have that picture in the email that we can?
I could definitely find it. So what I'll do for you, Michael, is I will post them on the show notes for this show. And then also just in case I don't really have like a spot on the website for like the tattoos and like the fan art and that kind of stuff. It always just goes into the show notes. So it'll unfortunately always be cataloged like in a way that like you'll kind of have to find what show notes I post something. Like if somebody did some amazing, awesome like drawing of Randall Flagg and I posted it in that episode's show notes, like that's where you'll end up finding it is, roundtable number 19 show notes or something like
Interesting
that.
You went to 19 there.
So, that actually does remind me. There was someone in one of our comments to one of our posts, and they had. Let me pull that up real quick because they had a note, and I actually kind of alluded to it in our book club episodes because it was in response to one of our book club posts. But I didn't want to like drop it in a book club because like.
Did it go past it? It needed expanding on.
It's like a larger meaning thing that didn't really make sense. Let me find it real quick.
Okay. I got Chris here in the chat. Different Chris.
Oh, Chris from Australia.
Yeah. That's Chris from N-World. Okay. He said he finished Firestarter last night.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, his first time. Secondhand bookstore a couple months ago, devoured it. I love that book. That one and Carrie, I don't know why. Those ones stuck with me from my early days of King, and they still probably would make my top 10 King book list.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I need to read that one still. I have not read that one.
You haven't read Firestarter?
No.
Oh, dude, you'd like it.
I know, and like every time I think about like getting a new book, that's on my list, like where I need to get it because as much as you like it, I want to get around to it at some point for sure. Okay, so yeah, here's the comment. It says, listening to Drawing the 3 series, really interesting work, guys, which I appreciate. And this is from Richard. And he says, I had a moment on part 2 and the relevance of 19. You mentioned that 57 bullets left after his encounter with Lobstrosity. Just a thought, 3 times 19 is 57. Hadn't made this link before. So, like, again, it's one of those things. So we've established before with even some emailers that, like, 19 wasn't significant in the series until the accident, right? And obviously the reason 19 is significant is because of the accident. But it's one of those, like, number 23 things that once that became, like, an important thing, like, there's a number of times throughout the series earlier than the accident that 19 comes up, and something like this is one of those, like, where once you start focusing on something, you realize, like, just out of some weird randomness, King happened to have, like, a multiplier of 19 there, or 19 shows up, but it was, like, in book 3 or something. Like,
yeah.
That's just, that has nothing to do with, like, the actual, like, him purposely putting meaning behind 19. But it is there. So I found that interesting. And I did want to share it just because that is another way, I guess, to engage with us that I never really thought about before, is commenting on the posts on our website. If there's stuff that you guys want to throw on there that's like to be shared or whatever, I could definitely do that too. But
I need to go bookmark that website. I go there very rarely because I'm not usually looking for like show notes or anything like that. But
yeah,
if people can post there, then I need to.
Yeah, and people have it a lot. And I thought about, once he posted that comment, I'm like, you know what, maybe we should throw that into our thing with, like, I mentioned the show notes and I mentioned the website, but it is certainly something that we could flesh out more to have the website maybe be more of a spot to have more engagement as well.
Yeah.
On top of everything else, because I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't into social media as much, but we could certainly have like things on the website as well. So definitely that would be an
Tad's,
option.
We put it up as like kind of like a blog spot, Tad's Torture Chamber.
No, I have thought about though, and maybe another thing to hear people's interest from is there's certainly an easy thing to do, like to make blog posts on this. And I was curious what people's interest would be on, like, blogs by either of us, like whether it's King related, Dark Tower related, or even just random, whatever it might be. I guess I just want to know what your guys' interests were in reading stuff like that, and if so, what topics would you want? Like, Peter, you just read the series, like if you had like had some thoughts on something that whatever, like, and I don't know if I would say it's something you don't want to do in the show, but like maybe it's just something more where you just want to flesh out something and do a blog post, and then I could post on that on the website, or it's just a thought that I had that maybe it could be another thing to where it's just like,
it's just another avenue for where I can talk about King. Sign me up.
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus Christ, I love it.
Yeah, and like it's even some of these other books, like now talking about Firestarter in here, or like I feel like that would probably be it, is like maybe circle on like a lot of King stuff and just like we're not going to have as much of an opportunity to talk about some of the stuff. Like,
yeah,
we have the Unfound Door episodes, but like, that's a slow project. But like,
it is.
So like if you wanted to, write up something on Firestarter and stuff, and then post on there, and then people can comment on it and almost have like a side discussion. I think we've talked about like trying to have that kind of stuff on Facebook and stuff, but I don't think that it has necessarily gone as deep as we thought that it might on Facebook, which is fine. But maybe if it's more central, where it's like, hey, here's a blog post, here's some points on Firestarter, here's some of the stuff I like, here's some thoughts I had from it, and then people can engage in that, and might be another avenue. If people are interested in that, it'd be interesting to hear. I mean, now we're getting some chat stuff going on here.
Me,
Talisman
Chris,
and Black House.
Yeah, me, Chris, and Monster Games are talking about Talisman, Black House, Firestarter, and Wolf, which is a character from Talisman. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's just a thought that I had recently, is especially with the comment from Richard, that people, if you definitely want to add anything to the show, that is another avenue to do it. I will also say that I don't remember when I set it up, but my picture on my name on the website is Mr. Randall Flagg.
Of course it is, because you're a terrible person.
Oh man. Yeah, so I let's see. Okay, is this still
we're still just talking about Talisman.
Okay.
Don't worry. I'll bring up anything that
I just saw it say the tower, so I was like, oh, wait, what?
The Black House has a Dark Tower connection. So we're talking about that, and the two of them are going back and forth about which one they prefer, how much they like them, and everything like that. So nothing. We're good.
Yeah, all right.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
Yeah, so let us know on that in terms of like having blogs on the website. I think that'd be something that might be kind of fun. I thought about that not too long ago, and then like I kind of forgot about it until just now. But yeah, I haven't even pitched to you until now on air. But it might be kind of interesting to have like a little bit of a.
You know what that reminds me of is the old school Internet Movie Database message boards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For just Stephen King, yeah.
That
could be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we could share them on social media just so people know that like a new post has been posted and stuff. But yeah, if ever want to be interested in that, let us know. I'm certain I could even just like between now and like when I get to the end of the stand, which is a ways away still. Like if I wanted to just do a blog about a certain bit that I just got to and like had some like cool thoughts on, I could just post it on there and whatever. That'd be kind of fun or whatever.
Or save it for the Unfound Door. That's the only thing there, is that if you plan on an Unfound Door, you got to save your thoughts for that.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of like things like, it's like our book club episodes, right? We knew that there's certain things you're never going to discuss unless you went line by line through the entire thing. There are certain things I'm sure in the stand, like even if we did 4 or 5 episodes of Unfound Door for the stand, it would still be tip of the iceberg for that book.
Tip of the iceberg.
So yeah, it's just a thought that I had, and just again other ways to like kind of build like I guess what Dark Tower Palaver is. Like ultimately the podcast is always going to be the flagship of it all. But yeah, just interested because there was actually another podcast I listened to. It was just a kind of a geeky one, and he was actually a blogger first, and then he started a podcast. But then the podcast has become way bigger, but so he kind of like left off the blogging for a while, and he recently started to back up, and I thought to myself, like, you know what, I wonder if that'd be kind of like almost like an appendices type thing for this, like, you're not going to be able to really talk a lot in depth about Firestarter on a Dark Tower Palaver episode necessarily, so go to the appendices, jump into it and write a blog, and I'd throw it up there for me, if it might be whatever, and I would just be curious what everyone's interest level would be, primarily like King versus non-King too, because I've thought about that, like like thoughts on something, whether it's like horror related or whatever, who knows. I know that people have there's a lot of different things that people are interested in. It'd be interesting to see what everyone's thoughts were, but I think that is going to be let's see, Stan is Tad's favorite. I didn't get too much into it the first time, but now I went through it the second time. I enjoyed it a lot more. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite. I adore it, and I'm at the point now where I'm about midway. I think I'm about midway through the book currently, so there's still a ways to go. I'm loving it though. Definitely enjoying it. but yeah, we're gonna with the mailbag. We'll close that up for now because the rest of the emails are going to be a little bit more extensive, and I don't want to shortchange anyone on the discussions. So we will close up shop. Let me hit the outro stuff real quick. First of all, if you want to subscribe to us or rate and review us, you can do that on iTunes. You can stream us on Stitcher. You can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. And if you want to engage with us between shows, Peter can let you know the best way to do that.
Yay, I'm not dying this time. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. It's our email address is the best way. You saw it here with the Tower Road that we still got up on the screen. The best way to reach us is that through that email address. We're on Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then Tad's on Twitter. It's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And then check out our shows. They're youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. You can see the old library for roundtables that we have up there. Book clubs don't get posted because copyright issues with the sound clips, but we do stream live there. We usually stream live Saturday about 5 o'clock Eastern time on YouTube. So come join us. Like, we got a couple people in the chat right now. Endworld Chris and what was it? Monster Games was the other one.
Yeah.
So
and we had OG Chris earlier.
Oh yeah,
and
OG Chris.
We had Jordy shortly for a little bit from the Netherlands. And yeah, so we've had a little bit through the chat, kind of in and out throughout it. But yeah, it's definitely a way to engage with us. So yeah, we will sign off for this episode of the podcast, and we will be back with you next time with another roundtable. And until next time, as we always say, long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, and then everyone in the chat, yeah, thanks for joining us. Let's see, so Lord of the Rings, yeah, Lord of the Rings definitely. And I think also, like, not just inspiration for the Tower, but also for the Stand. You know, the Stand, I feel like, is very Lord of the Rings-esque.
Oh yeah, it is.
So
the journey, the walking and everything like that.
Yeah, like I feel like isn't that what King said? Is he wanted it to kind of be like an American version of like what Lord of the Rings is for England. You know, is what he wanted to build for America with the Stand. Certainly not because it is Stephen King and it has like a lot of horror elements, pretty horrifying stuff. So I think some of the scariest stuff that I've read of Stephen King's is in the Stand, to be honest with you. That like it certainly doesn't have the same kind of widespread appeal like Lord of the Rings had with Tolkien. But I will say though, I think the Stand, outside of maybe It, is probably one of the most far-reaching King books. You know, that's far-reaching because of the book itself. Like something like The Shining, I feel like the Kubrick movie elevated that one way. I mean, it's a great book, but it, like the reach of The Shining is mostly because of Kubrick's movie, way more because of Kubrick's movie than the book. And I feel like The Stand and It, those two stand as like those books were like icons. You know, they made huge waves and stuff. And like the in some cases we had to wait decades to see the movies even catch up to the books for It, and for The Stand we're still freaking waiting. So
get on it. What's his name? Brolin?
Josh Boone. Yeah. And I think he has, like, we shared that picture that he had the books in front of him. So I have a feeling that it is in the works right now. So, and Chris, The Shining's a masterpiece, right? It certainly is, but yeah, it doesn't have, I don't think it has like the cultural impact until the Kubrick movies. I guess what I'm saying. I definitely don't want to like slight the book at all, because I love it. It's one of my favorites, and actually, if there was going to be one to compete with The Stand for scary moments for me, The Shining's probably getting in there. The hedge animal things, that gets me every time. But yeah, no, it just in terms of like, by and large, if people are talking about like Stephen King stuff, I feel like The Shining is talked about more because of Kubrick's movie. Because I mean, you're talking about one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Yeah. But with The Stand and It, like, I don't know, like Donnie Darko, I even think about like his mom's reading It, you know, like just small things like that. Like there's a reason that it's there. You know, they don't just pick up like, you know, they're that filmmaker picked It for a reason, and he wanted an iconic book that everyone knows, like, oh, the Killer Clown book. Like, it's not like Tommyknockers or Misery. I mean, maybe Misery because of the movie as well, but like, you know, it's not just a random King book. It's
not The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon.
Yeah, it's a heavy hitter. It's It. So, yeah, Chris, we talked about you earlier in the episode. We definitely want to schedule something to talk about your latest projects, and we also talked about maybe having like a free-for-all show, and maybe even having a trivia element. So that would be interesting. I think you might know why. He may have had something that might end up being a prize for us for a
Chris
trivia
product.
thing. Now, building a trivia thing would be the hardest part of it from the perspective of being like, organizing things.
And here's your host. Hashtag Tad is terrible. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah. And then the question would be, is it like, how much do you go king, or is it all Dark Tower? Like,
ooh, it's something to discuss. I think it's something we should look into.
Yeah. So Chris, thanks for joining us here late in the show, but I'm sure the time is an odd thing. I noticed our listeners peaked a little bit here toward the end. I'm guessing it's because this is kind of maybe more convenient for people, but I don't know. It bounces around for our for the live stream, but we also gave and we didn't give anyone any warning on this one. So that is and Dark Tower is king, so it could definitely be multiple things for sure. But yeah, maybe I'll have to start thinking about some like trivia type things, and because I feel like a free for all episode where just people could just bring up whatever topics would be fun, and maybe having a trivia contest would be fun as well. But let's see, it's 10 a.m. Saturday. I'm about to go off. So 10 a.m. All right, so he is into tomorrow. We're sitting here getting ready to go to dinner. So here in a bit, and having some beverages for a friend that's celebrating a promotion. So that's different times for sure, but it's good to have you here. Monster Games as well. Another regular here that's been through. Sorry guys again if you guys didn't hear the first part of the episode. Sorry, we had to shift this to today instead of tomorrow, so it's a little bit outside our normal schedule. But I'm glad you guys were able to make it, at least for some of it here. Awesome to engage with you guys. I'm sure Peter with the Talisman and Black House stuff.
I really like those books. You need to read them.
Oh, I know. Dude, with the project doing them all, that's where it's just like, it's where I have to hold back a little bit and not just jump to like, oh, I'll read Firestarter. And like Pet Sematary, dude, that one has been like, ever since that book was like released on Audible, I've been wanting to like read, like go through it, because I'm like, I haven't read that one in years. And like, but there's part of me that's like, dude, no, Tad, you got the Stand right now, and then you got to go back and catch some of the ones that you jumped over. So definitely be doing that. So thank you guys for joining us. We will see you guys next time. Well, no, Chris, I mean, I love the show that you did. I don't feel like, I feel like talking to you was like the main thrust of the show, so I don't think you dominated by any means. I mean, no more than what we wanted. I enjoyed it. I don't know. I thought it was great to
it was great to have you on there. We want you back. The other one that we also need to reach out to is, I just spaced on his name, the Stephen King podcast. We haven't talked to him for a while. Ilja's Library, is that how you say it?
Oh yeah. We were actually talking about doing a cross, like a cross episode with them at one point, but we haven't really done that. But we got plenty of stuff that we need to do for sure. But we definitely want to have you on to talk about the new project, or the newer project that you've done that we haven't talked about yet. But don't worry about feeling that you're dominating the show. Like, that was the whole point. We wanted you to, to talk about everything you'd done, and it was great.
No, you were fantastic, Chris. You really were.
All right. Well, Chris, we will be taking off as well, so thank you for joining us. Monster Games. I'm not sure who else. I think we might have one other person here, but they might be a strong silent type, because I haven't seen it pop up in the chat. I mean, outside of you, if my numbers are correct, too.
I'm out of there. I closed that out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
No, my this counter thing, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust it. There's times it's like, oh, there's only one person there, which would just be you, and then somebody else chimes in. So I think,
like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think YouTube's kind of funky. But all right, everyone on the live stream, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
See you guys.